Chapter 356. Why don't I take both of your lives? Chu Kuangren said calmly. As soon as he said that, a layer of chilling intent enveloped the entire area. The rain seemed to have turned into sharp blades. Li Zai's eyes turned cold when he heard Chu Kuangren's words. You want to kill me? Do you know that I have the unknown lands backing me? I know, but what can I do if I kill one of them? Try me if you can. Li Zai snorted. As he lifted his arm, a large amount of spiritual qi gathered in his palm and formed into a huge spiritual bird that flew out. On top of the bird, terrifying lightning energy surrounded it. Thousand Beasts Art, Thunderbird. Chu Kuangren calmly raised his hand when he saw that. Chu Kuangren unleashed a palm attack, shattering the raindrops that filled the sky. That so-called Thunderbird had been forcefully shattered by Chu Kuangren. That power made Li Zai's pupils dilate. So powerful. As expected of the legendary Chu Kuangren. Li Zai was secretly shocked. Meanwhile, the nine-headed snakelet let out a sharp roar as the raindrops gathered into a water spike and shot out. The nine-headed snakelet was an expert in controlling fire and water. Although he had not fully recovered from the storm, not everyone could block that seemingly ordinary water spike. Chu Kuangren lifted his arm and directed the earth qi to form a godly mountain. In the blink of an eye, the water spike exploded into mist. Is that all the nine-headed snakelet can do? Chu Kuangren stood with his hands behind his back and said with a hint of provocation in his eyes. How could a dignified ancient wild beast tolerate such provocation? It let out an enraged shriek, and the torrential rain froze for a moment. Then, countless raindrops transformed into water spikes and charged towards Chu Kuangren at an extreme speed. Chu Kuangren took out the lingering melody. He plucked the strings with his fingers and with a clang, the Guqin Daoist rhymes erupted, shattering the water spikes that were coming towards him. Resonant bell strike. Chu Kuangren flicked his finger and a terrifying sound wave instantly spread out, smashing onto the nine-headed snakelet's head. One of the nine-headed snakelet's head was smashed and it was extremely dizzy. The remaining 8 heads stared fiercely at Chu Kuangren as if they had been angered by him. Then, they lunged forward to bite him. Li Zai, who was standing on Jiao Ying's head, could only stand up and retreat a distance away when he saw Jiao Ying going berserk. He looked at Chu Kuangren who was being attacked by the nine-headed snakelet and sneered. Chu Kuangren, you're too arrogant. Even if the nine-headed snakelet has yet to fully recover its strength, its combat strength is still not something an ordinary sage can handle. Even a peak great sage would find it difficult to deal with. You? He's definitely going to die. The nine-headed snakelet was an ancient ferocious beast with extraordinary strength. Although its physical body had been dead for tens of thousands of years, after absorbing a large amount of flesh and blood essence from the nine-head clan, its strength was already half of its peak. To Li Zai, Chu Kuangren was no match for his opponent. In fact, as Chu Kuangren continued to play his Guqin music, waves of Guqin Daoist rhymes erupted and blasted towards the nine-headed snakelet. Although he managed to block off the nine-headed snakelet's bite for the time being, it still consumed a lot of his spiritual power. Lan Yu, you can leave first. Yes. Lan Yu nodded slightly and retreated a few thousand feet. Chu Kuangren put away the lingering Song Guqin. The descendant self-sword at his waist was unsheathed, and a dazzling purple sword ray instantly soared into the sky and landed on the nine-headed snakelet's head. Sparks flew as the sword ray collided with the snake scales. In the end, the sword ray's sharpness broke through the snake scale's defense, and a large amount of blood gushed out like a fountain. It was like a rain of blood. One of the nine-headed snakelet's eyes was torn apart by the sword ray, and the excruciating pain made the nine-headed snakelet let out a shrill scream. I'll eat you, I'll eat you. I'll definitely eat you up. The nine-headed snakelet roared. The excruciating pain triggered its ferocious qi, and it waved its 9 heads in the air. In an instant, the weather changed, and a terrifying Daoist rhyme shrouded the entire area. One of the nine-headed snakelet's heads spewed out flames, while the other spewed out black water. Whether it was flames or water, both were extremely terrifying. An ordinary sage would be injured even if they were just grazed by them. Chu Kuangren unleashed his phantom light strike technique and dodged the attacks at an extremely fast speed. Then, with a single thought, surges of sword chi shot out and intertwined in the air, forming multiple sword chi clones. Not long after, hundreds and thousands of sword chi clones surrounded the nine-headed snakelet. The nine-headed snakelet was dumbfounded at the sight. Is this an emperor technique? An emperor technique that can create clones? Not far away, Li Zhe was shocked as well. He could clearly feel that each of the sword chi clone's strength was no weaker than an honorable. If these hundreds and thousands of honorables attacked him together, he would be sliced into pieces in a matter of minutes. I can't believe Chu Kuangren has such a cultivation technique. No wonder he could defeat 4 Empyrean walkers in a row. His strength is indeed incredible. There's actually a sky pride of this level in the outside world? Before meeting Chu Kuangren in person, Li Zhe's impression of him was based on rumors and collected intelligence. However, after meeting him today, he realized that Chu Kuangren's combat strength was much more terrifying and shocking than he had imagined. Get rid of him. Chu Kuangren looked at the nine-headed snakelet and ordered. Upon receiving the order, the hundreds and thousands of sword chi clones instantly rushed out and unleashed a large amount of sword chi around the nine-headed snakelet. D***MNit. D***MNit. The nine-headed snakelet was enraged, and his 9 heads continuously spat out water and fire. Intense sword chi fluctuations erupted continuously. Although the nine-headed snakelet's physical strength was terrifying, Chu Kuangren's sword chi clones were not weak either. Moreover, each sword chi clone was holding a treasured sword in their hands. Each of them was a top-notch honorable weapon. Some of them were even sacred swords. After all, these swords had been nurtured in the sacred emerald sword case for so many years. Coupled with Chu Kuangren's continuous improvement in cultivation, even an ordinary sword of steel should have become an honorable weapon. This was the terrifying power of the sacred emerald sword case. Ordinary people could only nurture 2 or 3 weapons, but Chu Kuangren had the sacred emerald sword case. As long as the weapons he nurtured were not more powerful than emperor weapons, Chu Kuangren could nurture as many swords as the sword case could hold. Gradually, the nine-headed snakelet's body was covered in bloody scars. Although each of the scars was not deep, there were so many of them that they covered the nine-headed snakelet's entire body, dyeing his snake scales a bloody red. Faced with the joint attack of hundreds and thousands of sword chi clones, the nine-headed snakelet was reminded of the time when he was surrounded by the royal Azure dynasty's founding emperor. At that moment, the nine-headed snakelet's rage had reached its peak. The ferocious chi on his body spread like waves, accompanied by a terrifying burst of water and fire Daoist rhymes. Under the impact of this Daoist rhyme, the sword chi clones in the air burst like bubbles, and the long swords in their hands fell to the ground. Not far away. Li Zhe breathed a sigh of relief. As expected, Chu Kuangren can't kill the nine-headed snakelet with his current strength. Although the nine-headed snakelet looks battered now, the injuries he sustained are only superficial. It won't affect his combat strength much. At that thought, he looked at Chu Kuangren's real body not far away. Chapter 357. At that moment, Chu Kuangren was sitting on a large green boulder with a bottle of wine in his hand. He was enjoying it. After the nine-headed snakelet destroyed all the sword chi clones, Chu Kuangren looked up. Oh, it's over. As expected of a wild beast. The corner of Li Zhe's mouth twitched. He felt that Chu Kuangren did not take the nine-headed snakelet seriously at all. No matter what, it was still an ancient wild beast. Can't you give me some face? B*****, I'm going to eat you up. The nine-headed snakelet roared angrily and charged towards Chu Kuangren. However, at that moment, countless sword chi gushed out from the ground and intertwined in the air, forming a sword chi wall. The nine-headed snakelet's head smashed onto the sword chi wall and bounced back. What's going on? Li Zai's expression changed slightly. Then, he looked at the long swords that were scattered on the ground. Those long swords were vibrating at that moment, and the sword chi wall that gushed out was the work of those swords. Although there were no sword chi clones, those swords were emanating an even more terrifying sword chi. Sword formation, activate. Chu Kuangren said calmly. The swords that were scattered on the ground rose into the air and circled around the nine-headed snakelet's body, forming an incredibly mysterious sword formation. There were a total of 365 swords. It was the four-seasoned sword formation. How does this guy have so many tricks up his sleeves? First it was the 8 celestial demonic chords, then the sword chi clones, and now this sword formation. Every single one of them was an incredible emperor-level technique. Yet Chu Kuangren, a guy who was not even a sage, had so many emperor-level techniques up his sleeves. It was a fantasy. Even the unknown lands might not have so many emperor-level techniques. The four-seasoned sword formation was activated, and surges of sword chi shuttled back and forth within the sword formation. It was filled with a mysterious Daoist rhyme of the four seasons. Under such power, even the nine-headed snakelet felt pressured. Since I've broken through to the Honorable Supreme Realm, this is my first time using the four-seasoned sword formation. Let me test its power on you. Chu Kuangren smiled. The sword chi shuttled back and forth, continuously attacking the nine-headed snakelet's body. Its power was much stronger than when he used hundreds and thousands of sword chi clones. The Jianghu opened its mouth and spat out flames and water, crazily attacking the sword array. However, no matter what he did, the sword formation still showed no signs of breaking. With Chu Kuangren's current strength, no one below the level of a sage ruler would be able to break through this sword formation. Even a saint king could be trapped for a short period of time. Jianghu might have been able to break through this sword formation when he was at his peak, but now that he had just recovered, even if he had devoured a large amount of flesh and blood essence, there was still a certain gap between his strength and that of a true sage king. The four seasons rotated, and everything changed. Within the sword formation, the endless sword chi in the sky transformed into a huge colorful sword shadow. It contained the mighty power of nature and smashed down on the nine-headed snakelet. This sword shadow landed directly on one of Jiao Ying's heads. The terrifying power had chopped off one of its heads. Boom, the mountain-like head landed on the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. The Jiao roared in agony. Not far away, Li Zai was horrified when he saw this scene. Jiao was going to lose? No, no. I've spent so much effort and even used a secret technique like the craggy ocean pass on him. How can I let him die just like that? The nine-headed snakelet was an ancient wild beast with great potential. Even a sage ruler might not be his limit. If he continued to cultivate, there was a high chance that he could become an emperor in the future. How could Li Zai watch such a powerful assistant die? Craggy ocean bestial soul, Kun. Li Zai let out a loud roar as the spiritual power in his body surged. An incredibly mysterious Daoist rhyme gushed out and intertwined in the void, forming a strange image that looked like a giant whale. The craggy ocean tower was a very ancient orthodoxy. Their cultivation techniques were obtained by observing the rare beasts in the world. Besides that, the high-level cultivators of the craggy ocean tower also possessed something called the craggy ocean bestial soul. It was created by capturing all kinds of rare beasts, extracting their souls, and refining them using a secret technique. A person could only have one bestial soul in their lifetime. Li Zai's craggy ocean bestial soul was a strange beast called the Kun. It was a very powerful ancient wild beast, and its potential was not much weaker than an ancient wild beast like the nine-headed snakelet. In the craggy ocean tower, there were only a few bestial souls of this level. In the void, the image of the Kun gradually materialized, and a majestic ancient wild beast, the Kun, emerged. Howl, a strange howl reverberated in the void. Vaguely, the sound of a tsunami could be heard in the void. Go! Li Zhe roared and maneuvered the Kun towards Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren was surprised to see that. Oh, I didn't expect you to be a summoner too. Just when he was about to distract himself from the Kun, a silver-white figure appeared in front of him. A huge amount of light-based Daoist rhyme poured out like a flood, and a huge white shield appeared out of thin air. The Kun collided with the shield, and a loud explosion was heard. The surrounding rainwater exploded. Lan Yu's face turned pale, but he still managed to withstand the impact of the Kun. Master, I'll leave you to deal with the nine-headed snakelet. Leave this Empyrean walker to me. Chu Kuangren was shocked. Just when he was about to say something, he saw the determination on Lan Yu's face, so he nodded. Be careful then. All right. The scepter of light appeared in Lan Yu's hand, and the silver-white armor covered his body. Dense light-based Daoist rhyme erupted once again, and his sapphire-like eyes stared at Li Zhe with a bone-chilling intent. Empyrean Walker, come. Show me what you've got. Oh, young Emperor Lan Yu, I know who you are. But how many moves do you think you can withstand against me? Li Zhe snorted and continued to maneuver the Kun towards Lan Yu. Holy scorch! Without another word, Lan Yu channeled his spiritual power to the maximum, and a huge amount of white flames burned on the scepter before he smashed it. Lan Yu was sent flying, but the white flames also landed on the bestial soul. The bestial soul was entangled by the flames, and it let out a blood-curdling scream. Li Zhe, who was connected to the bestial soul, was shocked. This flame can burn a bestial soul. This is no ordinary flame. It contains a light-based Daoist rhyme that can purify everything. With that attack, Li Zhe began to take Lan Yu seriously. Both of them exchanged blows again. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren continued to attack the nine-headed snakelet with the four-seasoned sword formation. Soon enough, his opponent had suffered unprecedented damage. Of the 9 heads, 3 had been chopped off. Chu Kuangren's mind moved, and a pitch-black chain suddenly appeared in his hand. It was the soul retriever that he had not used for a long time. Go! The soul retriever flew out and pierced through the sword formation. The 9-headed snakelet's strong physical body was useless against the soul retriever, which specialized in attacking souls. The hook pierced right through it. Then, the 9-headed snakelet, who was still in a daze due to its heavy injuries, suddenly felt a great sense of fear, and it let out a hysterical howl. This feeling. My soul. My sage spirit is leaving me again. Ah. Chapter 358. My soul, my sage spirit is leaving me again. No, no. The remaining heads of the 9-headed snakelet screamed in fear. The 9-headed snakelet's sage spirit had already been extracted and refined into the 9-headed snakelet pearl. Although it had been fused again, it had not been fully fused yet. Moreover, the 9-headed snakelet was still in a daze after being severely injured by Chu Kuangren. Hence, the sage spirit could not resist the soul retriever's attack. A huge 9-headed snakelet's sage spirit was forcefully pulled out by the soul retriever. Chu Kuangren could feel the spiritual power within his body being consumed rapidly. Soon, he only had 1/6 of it left. Sure enough, using the soul retriever to pull out a spirit of this level consumes a lot of spiritual power. Chu Kuangren thought to himself. If he was still an honorable supreme, he could not guarantee that the soul retriever would not be able to pull out the 9-headed snakelet's sage spirit. The 9-headed snakelet's sage spirit struggled for a while before its body suddenly emitted a ray of light. Lines of mysterious runes emerged from the sage spirit's body and formed into a huge sphere that sealed it within. No, no. D***mn it, I've finally regained my freedom. I don't want to turn back into that damned nine-headed snakelet pearl and become a slave again. No. However, no matter how much the nine-headed snakelet sage spirit roared, its sage spirit rapidly shrunk under the restriction of those runes. In the end, it turned into a colorful pearl the size of a fist. Chu Kuangren kept the soul retriever. Oh, so this is the nine-headed snakelet pearl? Chu Kuangren was rather surprised. He did not expect that the runes that refined it into the nine-headed snakelet pearl would not disappear after the nine-headed snakelet sage spirit returned to its physical body. When the nine-headed snakelet sage spirit was pulled out, the runes took effect once again and refined it into the nine-headed snakelet pearl. The founding emperor of the Royal Azure Dynasty sure has some tricks up his sleeves. Chu Kuangren exclaimed and kept the sword formation. He held the nine-headed snakelet pearl and roared at the nine-headed snakelet in it before tossing it into his yin and yang ring. Then, he looked at Lan Yu, who was fighting Li Zhe not far away. She had improved tremendously, especially during this period of time. Even Chu Kuangren felt ashamed of how hard she had been cultivating. Although there was still a gap between his combat strength and that of an Empyrean walker's, it was not too far off. He was able to put up a good fight against Li Zhe. Damn it, the nine-headed snakelet sacred spirit has turned back into the nine-headed snakelet pearl. Li Zhe's expression was extremely gloomy. He could feel that the Shanghai Sea mystic technique that he had planted in the nine-headed snakelet holy spirit could not be sensed at all. Clearly, it was suppressed by the runes of the nine-headed snakelet pearl. The nine-headed snakelet is gone. There's no point in staying any longer. Li Zhe took a deep breath and urged his mountain and sea origin spirit Kun to knock away Lan Yu. He was about to withdraw his origin spirit and leave. However, at this moment, a black chain flew out and hooked the mountain sea origin soul, Kun, tightly, preventing it from returning. In a sense, the mountain and sea source spirit was the same as the sacred spirit, it was also a kind of spirit body. As long as it was a soul, the soul reaper chain would be effective. What happened? Li Zhe's expression changed. He kept urging the spiritual power in his body, but he still couldn't summon the mountain sea essence soul, Kun. This Leviathan is quite interesting. It's like some sort of summoned creature. Let me see what's going on. Chu Kuangren activated his eye of revelation and began to analyze the bestial soul. Kun, one of the ancient mutated beasts. Its soul was captured by the craggy ocean tower and refined into a bestial soul using a secret technique. Chu Kuangren came to a realization after a while. It seems like the craggy ocean tower has quite a few of these things. Why don't you take a few out for fun? The seed of bestial souls is a secret treasure of the craggy ocean tower. Non-core members are not allowed to touch it. Why would we give it to you? Li Zhe snorted coldly. If that's the case, what's the point of keeping you around? Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Chu Kuangren slowly reached out his arm, and dense spiritual power instantly erupted, forming into a giant golden hand. The giant palm of exorcism was unleashed. With his bestial soul restrained, Li Zhe's expression changed when he saw the giant palm pressing down on him. He immediately channeled the remaining spiritual power in his body and unleashed a punch. Thousand Beasts Art, Qiong Qi. Roar. A ferocious tiger-like mutated beast leaped into the sky. The Qiong Qi's power violently collided with the giant golden hand. However, with a loud explosion, the Qiong Qi's shadow shattered into countless spiritual power fragments. It has the form but no soul. The craggy ocean tower's thousand beasts art is only a so-so. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Through the eye of revelation, he had already seen through Li Zhe's cultivation technique. The thousand beasts art was not weak at all. In fact, it was close to an emperor's scripture. Unfortunately, it was still not an emperor's scripture. Boom, the giant palm forcefully pressed down on Li Zhe's body. It ruthlessly smashed his opponent into the ground. The terrifying energy instantly shattered Li Zai's bones. You dare kill me? Li Zai said in horror. Why wouldn't I? Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Unlike the few Empyrean walkers who came to the Black Heaven sect, Chu Kuangren's grudge with Li Zai was much deeper. Yi Xian, Feng Yaorao, and the others had only lost to him in challenges. On the other hand, Li Zai had tricked Gu Chang'e into stealing the nine-headed snakelet pearl and wreaking havoc in the royal Azure dynasty. Now that he had killed the nine-headed snakelet that Li Zai had painstakingly obtained, Li Zai would not let this go easily. If that's the case, I might as well kill him. With another palm attack, Chu Kuangren killed Li Zai on the spot. The moment Li Zai died, the craggy ocean bestial soul that Chu Kuangren had hooked onto with the soul retriever turned into countless spots of light and gathered in the air to form a fist-sized egg. Chu Kuangren stood where he was and rubbed his chin for a while. This should be the bestial soul seed. As long as I refine this bestial soul seed, I can summon the craggy ocean bestial soul, Kuan Kuan. TSK, I didn't expect to have such an unexpected gain. He kept the original spirit seed and used the gluttonous Tai technique to refine Li Zai's corpse. He also threw Jiao Ying's corpse into his Qian Kun ring and cleaned up the scene. The storm was still pouring down. As long as they left, no trace would be left behind. Erase the corpses, complete. Chu Kuangren clapped his hands. There was no one around. The Nine-Head clan had either escaped or been eaten. After the nine-headed snakelet's rampage, the Nine-Head clan was done for. They would never be able to invade the royal Azure dynasty again. Let's go. Chu Kuangren left the scene with Lan Yu. In the craggy ocean tower. On top of a mountain peak, a powerful aura suddenly erupted. Who is it? Who killed the Empyrean walker of the craggy ocean tower? On top of the mountain peak, an old man was furious. His eyes were filled with murderous intent, and due to his extreme anger, his face would occasionally show fine, dragon scale-like patterns. In his hand, there was a broken jade slip. It was Li Zai's life jade scroll. Once Li Zai was dead, the life jade scroll would shatter as well. Investigate. Send someone to investigate. Honorable teacher, please let me go. At that moment, a green-robed man walked up and said, now that senior brother is dead, the craggy ocean tower will need to send out a new Empyrean walker. While we're making a name for ourselves, I'll investigate the cause of senior brother's death. That's good too. Yuan Xian, you're no weaker than your senior brother. Although I have faith in you, you still need to be careful when you go out. Especially that Chu Kuangren. Don't provoke him if you can, the old man said slowly after taking a deep breath. Yes, honorable teacher. Chapter 359. After dealing with the Nine-Head clan, Chu Kuangren returned to the royal Azure dynasty and handed the nine-headed snakelet pearl to Linglong. Then, he told them about Gu Chang'e's death. Linglong and the royal Azure dynasty ruler were silent for a while. After a long while, the royal Azure dynasty ruler sighed helplessly. What an unfilial son. Why did you have to do this? He did not say anything. Death was like smoke, and there was nothing he could do even if he wanted to. Chu Kuangren stayed in the royal Azure dynasty for a few days before he left. He was not in a hurry to return to the Black Heaven sect. Along the way, he passed by the school of White Lotus. Since they were allies, he decided to pay them a visit. Let me buy some fruits. Chu Kuangren thought that he could not go empty-handed. Hence, he went to the streets. It had been almost 2 years since the three-headed hound broke the seal, and the capital city of the Full Moon Kingdom had been rebuilt. People were coming and going on the streets, and it was very lively. Master, look over there. Lan Yu suddenly noticed something and pulled Chu Kuangren's sleeve, pointing to the middle of the street. He looked over curiously. There were 2 statues in the middle of the street. One of them was a female statue, the founder of the school of White Lotus, the White Lotus sage ruler. Beside it was another statue. It was a man with an ancient sword hanging on his waist. An old man and a little girl stood beside the statue. The old man looked at the statue with reverence in his eyes. "Grandpa, who is this man? Why do you stop here every time you pass by?" the little girl asked curiously. The old man looked at the statue and said, "Xiaolan, you must remember this man. He's the bachelor sage of the school of White Lotus." The old man paused. "I don't think he's a bachelor sage either. I heard that he's now the supreme elder of the school of White Lotus. Regardless of whether he's a bachelor sage or an elder, he's still a hero of the Full Moon Kingdom. He's the one who saved you, Grandpa, and the entire Full Moon Kingdom." The little girl nodded as if she understood. She then looked at the statue and said, "Grandpa, he's so handsome. I'll marry him when I grow up. What do you say, Grandpa?" Sure, sure." The old man laughed. At that moment, Chu Kuangren was already close to the statue. He rubbed his chin and said, "This person is quite handsome, but why does he look so familiar?" Beside him, the little girl noticed him and cried out in surprise. She tugged at the old man's sleeve. "Grandpa, it's a hero, a hero. Xiaolan is naughty." The old man did not pay much attention to it. When he looked up and saw Chu Kuangren, he was shocked and immediately knelt down in excitement. "Greetings, Lord Saint." The people on the street also noticed this scene and looked over. When they saw Chu Kuangren, all of them were so excited that they knelt on the ground with a fanatical look on their faces. "Greetings, Lord Saint." "Greetings, Lord Holy Son." Chu Kuangren was a little confused by the scene before him. It was true that he had once been a holy son of the White Lotus Society, but were all the holy sons of the White Lotus Society so ostentatious? Were all the people going to kneel when they saw the saint? "Everyone, please rise. Don't stand on ceremony." Chu Kuangren flicked his sleeves and a gust of gentle spiritual power swept out like a breeze. Like an invisible giant hand, it lifted everyone up. "Thank you, Saint. Thank you, Bachelor Saint." The people still looked at Chu Kuangren passionately. When Chu Kuangren looked at the statue, he finally understood why it looked so familiar. It was him. The school of White Lotus had erected a statue for him. "The maiden sage is here." A lady in white walked out from the crowd. It was the White Lotus maiden sage. She came before Chu Kuangren and said with a smile, "Supreme Elder, why didn't you tell us beforehand that you're here to visit? We could have prepared to welcome you." Chu Kuangren smiled and said, "I was just passing by, so I thought of paying you a visit. I'm just here for a free meal. There's no need to make it so grand." The surrounding people started to discuss among themselves when they heard that. Lord Bachelor Sage is really approachable. He's not a bachelor sage anymore. He's a supreme elder now. Whether he's a bachelor sage or an elder, he's our savior and hero. We respect him and love him. That's right. Chu Kuangren was a little embarrassed when he heard the people around him. Isn't this a little too passionate? The White Lotus maiden sage brought Chu Kuangren back to the school of White Lotus headquarters. Along the way, she told Chu Kuangren about the changes that had taken place in the past 2 years. Among them, the thing that concerned Chu Kuangren the most was why the people of the Full Moon Kingdom worshipped him so much. It was because when Chu Kuangren helped the school of White Lotus to suppress the three-headed hound, his miraculous methods had left a deep impression on the people. Many of them treated him as the incarnation of the White Lotus sage ruler. The king of the Full Moon Kingdom even erected a statue of him beside the White Lotus sage ruler so that he could stand shoulder to shoulder with her. Coupled with the school of White Lotus support, Chu Kuangren had become a religion in the Full Moon Kingdom and the surrounding countries. His reputation could even be compared to the White Lotus sage ruler. Upon hearing that, Chu Kuangren came to a realization. A powerful religion would allow the School of White Lotus to better rule and manage the southern countries. The founder of the School of White Lotus, the White Lotus sage ruler, had been around for tens of thousands of years. Although there were still many people who worshipped her, it would be difficult to further strengthen her faith. Chu Kuangren's appearance was an opportunity for the School of White Lotus. The School of White Lotus intended to create a new religion to maintain their governance and rule over the southern countries. As long as they said that Chu Kuangren was the incarnation or reincarnation of the White Lotus sage ruler, it would not conflict with the original beliefs of the School of White Lotus. After all, Chu Kuangren was indeed using the White Lotus light of purification. By doing this, you guys are almost treating me as your spokesperson. I can ask for endorsement fees from you guys. Spokesperson? Endorsement fees? What does that mean? The White Lotus maiden sage was confused. Nothing much. Chu Kuangren smiled and did not say anything else. If the School of White Lotus wanted to create a religion out of him, it would not do him any harm. Since that was the case, he did not have any objections. Elder, you're here. Once he entered the headquarters, Chu Kuangren met a familiar face. It was Honorable Qing Lan, who had been his protector in the past. Elder Qing Lan, how have you been? Sigh, Elder, I can't accept you calling me Elder now. Please don't call me that anymore. Honorable Qing Lan smiled bitterly. What was Chu Kuangren's current status? The Black Heaven sect leader, the Royal Azure Dynasty's equal ruler, the School of White Lotus Supreme Elder. Any one of these people could easily overpower her. Of course, more importantly, Chu Kuangren's strength was many times stronger than hers. Even the sages would not dare to accept being called elder by him, let alone a mere honorable like her. Heh, Brother Qing Lan, how have you been? That sounds much better. Leader, there are still sages waiting for you inside, Honorable Qing Lan said. Chu Kuangren walked into the great hall and saw the immemorial sage and the White Lotus leader. The few of them gathered together and began to catch up. Among them, the incident on the unnamed island and the headless lady was brought up. The immemorial sage still had lingering fears. That headless lady was too terrifying. Just thinking about it makes me nervous, immemorial sage said. Looking at the immemorial sage's terrified expression, Chu Kuangren suddenly remembered that the headless lady's head was in his yin and yang ring. If he took it out and showed it to the immemorial sage, who knew how scared she would be? Chapter 360. Congratulations, host. You've obtained a god-tier physique, the Universal Cauldron Physique. On this day, Chu Kuangren stood up to draw his gacha. His eyes lit up when he saw the reward. It was another god-tier prize. Moreover, it was a god-tier physique that was similar to the immortal body. He opened his inventory and read the description of the Universal Cauldron Physique. The more he read, the more amazed he became. The Universal Cauldron Physique was extremely powerful. It was a physique that could convert all energy in the world into energy that was suitable for one's cultivation level. In other words, with this physique, Chu Kuangren would no longer be limited to absorbing spiritual qi from the heavens and earth or consuming medicinal pills to increase his spiritual power. He now had many more options. The essence of the sun and moon, the mysterious flames of the world, the souls of cultivators, and even the demonic qi from hell, all of these could be converted into spiritual power that was suitable for him. That was undoubtedly a very terrifying thing. With this physique, Chu Kuangren could increase his strength by devouring all kinds of energy that other cultivators could not. He could use his body as a cauldron to refine the heavens and earth. I was just worrying about not having enough resources to help me form the Supreme Sage Foundation level. This Universal Cauldron Physique came at the right time. A satisfied smile appeared on Chu Kuangren's face. Without hesitation, he extracted the physique. In the next few days, Chu Kuangren was not in a hurry to leave. He stayed in the school of White Lotus for a few days. Occasionally, he would spar with the immemorial sage and give some pointers to the bachelor saints. However, today was the day. A few uninvited guests suddenly appeared in the school of White Lotus. Among them, one of them was from the outer seas. In the school of White Lotus's great hall, a black-robed, spirited old man with an aquiline nose stared at the immemorial sage and said, "Immemorial sage, please hand over Black Peak's corpse. Otherwise, don't blame me for not showing mercy. I told you, I don't have his corpse. That day on the unnamed island, someone saw you fighting Black Peak. When I returned to Ravengale Island, I found that his soul lamp had already dissipated. If you didn't kill him, who else could it be? Even if I killed him, I don't have his corpse. Even if I did, his bones would have been turned into ashes long ago," Immemorial Sage said coldly. Her tone was filled with unforgettable hatred. Hearing this, the aquiline-nosed old man could not help but frown. Black Peak is a sage after all. His sage body is a great treasure to cultivators below the sage level. Even if the immemorial sage has no use for it, surely someone from the White Lotus school can use it? This was also the reason why he was looking for the immemorial sage. Deaths and injuries were inevitable in a battle between sages. Moreover, the immemorial sage had a personal grudge with the Ravenblade sage. She had killed the Ravenblade sage. Even if he wanted to seek revenge, he would not be able to do so easily. He wanted to retrieve the Ravenblade sage's corpse first. It was not that he had a lot of feelings for the Ravenblade saint, but it was time to sacrifice the serpent deity soon. Although the Ravenblade saint was dead, his body was an excellent sacrifice. He was right. He was here to find the corpse of the Ravenblade sage and bring it back as an offering. I said I don't have it, and that means I don't have it. The immemorial sage snorted. The Ravenblade sage's corpse had been refined by Chu Kuangren using the gluttonous devouring technique, leaving nothing behind. The aquiline-nosed old man frowned. The immemorial sage was adamant that there was no Ravenblade sage's corpse, but he did not have any evidence. Hence, he could not do anything to her. The immemorial sage then ignored the old man. She looked at the other two people in the great hall. One of them was a black-robed young man, and the other was an old man in a cloak. For some reason, the immemorial sage could not help but feel uncomfortable when she looked at them. "Why are you two here at the School of White Lotus? I heard that the forefather of the School of White Lotus, the White Lotus sage ruler, had once sealed a Cerberus. Not long ago, the Cerberus broke out of the seal and was later killed. We want the corpse of this demonic beast," the black-robed young man said. The immemorial sage was a little confused. What was going on? Why were they all here to ask for her corpse? We don't have the corpse of the Cerberus either. That was a sage ruler. His physical body is extremely precious, so the School of White Lotus must have preserved it. The black-robed young man said confidently as he stared at the immemorial sage. I've already said that we don't have it. Whether it was the Ravenblade sage or the Cerberus, they were all refined by Chu Kuangren using the gluttonous devouring technique. How could the immemorial sage possibly have them? I have great use for the Cerberus's corpse. I'm willing to exchange it for 200 million top-tier soul stones. Otherwise, the School of White Lotus will not have an easy time today, the black-robed young man said. He even threatened her. The immemorial sage was furious. Every one of you has come to the School of White Lotus to look for a corpse. Do you guys think the School of White Lotus is a funeral parlor? At that moment, a white-robed figure slowly walked into the great hall. The black-robed young man and the others were stunned when they saw this person. Even a sage like the aquiline-nosed old man was filled with fear. It was Chu Kuangren. Chu Kuangren, the cloaked old man behind the black-robed young man, looked up at Chu Kuangren with a hint of hostility in his eyes. However, he quickly averted his gaze, afraid that he would be discovered. However, Chu Kuangren had long seen through his identity. King Yen Luo of the Underworld Palace, are you still trying to hide your identity in front of me? Chu Kuangren immediately revealed the cloaked old man's identity. The aquiline-nosed old man did not mind. However, the immemorial sage's expression changed slightly. You're from the Underworld Palace. She did not have a good impression of the Underworld Palace. Previously, the Cerberus had broken its seal because of King Wuguan. Sect leader Chu, you really have a sharp eye. How did I give myself away? The King Yen Luo said calmly. The black-robed young man beside him also looked at Chu Kuangren curiously. I can smell the disgusting stench of the demonic orthodoxy's underworld palace from afar, Chu Kuangren said calmly. He had many dealings with the underworld palace, and a few of the 10 kings of the underworld palace had even died by his hands. Even without the eye of revelation, he could still sense something from his opponent's technique aura. Since you're here, why don't you stay? Chu Kuangren suddenly said as he raised his hand and grabbed at the King Yen Luo. A majestic Buddhist light manifested and turned into a giant golden hand. In the face of such power, the King Yen Luo, who was only an honorable supreme, could not withstand it at all. His expression changed drastically as he did not expect Chu Kuangren to make a move. Beside him, the black-robed young man snorted. How dare you? He took a step forward and a black skull appeared on his body. With a chilling aura, it collided with the giant golden hand. With a loud explosion, the giant golden hand dissipated and the skull shattered. The black-robed young man and the King Yen Luo were pushed back a few meters. Chu Kuangren stood on the spot, unmoving and as steady as a mountain. To be able to withstand this attack of mine, your position as Acheron Manor's Empyrean Walker is not in vain. Chu Kuangren smiled. The immemorial sage and the aquiline-nosed old man looked at the black-robed young man in surprise. They did not expect him to be an Empyrean Walker. Chapter 361. So this is Chu Kuangren's true strength? How terrifying! Yuan Wudao stared at Chu Kuangren with fear in his eyes. Both of them had only exchanged one move, but Yuan Wudao had used more than 70% of his strength. Yet, he was still forced back a few meters. Chu Kuangren did not move an inch. It was obvious that Yuan Wudao did not use that much strength. 50%? 30%? No matter how much he used, Chu Kuangren's strength was undeniably above him. Yuan Wudao was unwilling to admit defeat. Chu Kuangren, we're here to make a deal with the School of White Lotus. I don't think this has anything to do with you. Yuan Wudao said calmly. You brought people from the Underworld Palace here to make a deal? I can only say that there's nothing to talk about. Chu Kuangren sneered. He did not have a good impression of the Underworld Palace. The other party had caused him trouble time and time again, directly or indirectly, and had even planted a spy in his Black Heaven sect. Now that he had met them, how could he not do anything? Chu Kuangren raised his hand and channeled his spiritual power again. Chu Kuangren, how dare you be so unreasonable? Yuan Wudao was enraged, and his face was dark. What a joke. Since when did you demonic orthodoxies become reasonable people? Scram! Chu Kuangren raised his hand and unleashed a palm attack. An even more majestic Buddhist light then transformed into an even more majestic golden palm. The power of that attack was boundless. Yuan Wudao's expression changed slightly as a terrifying and eerie Daoist rhyme erupted from his body, and a sinister black mist rose from it. It was the demonic qi from the underworld. Although demonic orthodoxies were called demonic orthodoxies, it referred to their behavior, and the spiritual power that they cultivated was still common. However, the demonic qi from the underworld was rare. Yuan Wudao unleashed a palm attack, and a cold and violent demonic qi poured out, covering the entire hall in a layer of frost. The demonic qi turned into a black skull and smashed towards the Buddhist light palm. However, the giant hand was like a hot knife through butter, easily shattering the skull and sending Yuan Wudao flying out of the hall with terrifying force. The golden palm continued forward, grabbing the defenseless Yanluo king in its palm. Without saying a word, Chu Kuangren exerted some strength in his fingers and crushed his opponent into a bloody mist. Yuan Wudao's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Chu Kuangren, you've gone too far. Demonic chi surged all over his body, turning into dark clouds that surged in the sky. Numerous black skulls rose from the surface of his body, looking incomparably sinister. How dare you bring people from the underworld palace in front of me? Who is the one who is being too presumptuous? Chu Kuangren said coldly. He took a step forward, and an incomparably vast golden Buddhist light shot into the sky, turning into an ancient Buddha that was thousands of feet tall in the void. The Buddhist light illuminated the surrounding 100 miles. Under this golden Buddhist light, the surging devil chi actually melted and disintegrated like snow under the blazing sun. Yuan Wudao's pupils constricted as he was overwhelmed with shock. My demonic energy is so fragile before his Buddhist light. Is he the reincarnation of a living Buddha? Damn it, I'm afraid I'm not his match. Yuan Wudao stared at Chu Kuangren with fear in his eyes. He finally understood why his honorable teacher had repeatedly warned him to be careful of Chu Kuangren before he entered the realm. Chu Kuangren was a far greater threat to him than the Empyrean walkers. That golden Buddhist light alone was enough to completely suppress his demonic chi. Chu Kuangren, I surrender. Yuan Wudao gritted his teeth and retracted his demonic chi before the battle had even begun. In an instant, the monstrous demonic chi disappeared. Chu Kuangren glanced at Yuan Wudao, feeling rather surprised. He did not expect Yuan Wudao to endure it. The Buddhist light dissipated. Are you going to leave now, or do I have to ask you to? Yuan Wudao took a deep breath, turned around, and left sullenly. Master, are we going to let him leave just like that? Lan Yu asked in confusion. Demonic chi cultivators are few and far between. This person might be of some use. Chu Kuangren stroked his chin as he pondered. To cultivate demonic chi, one must have demonic chi in order to do so. It was not easy to find a stable source of demonic chi in the firmament star. After all, this was not the underworld demonic realm. So where did Yuan Wudao get his demonic chi from? Chu Kuangren felt that there was more to this than meets the eye. After sending Yuan Wudao away, Chu Kuangren looked at the talon-shaped nose old man and said, the Ravenblade sage died without a complete corpse. His bones have been reduced to ashes. What? Who did this? The talon-shaped nose old man was furious. That was the sacrificial offering that he was supposed to bring back, yet someone had destroyed it? I did it. Do you have any objections? Chu Kuangren said. The talon-shaped nose old man was speechless. Chu Kuangren did it. What else could he say if it was Chu Kuangren who did it? Could it be that he had to fight the other party? He knew his limits. If he were to fight Chu Kuangren, he would not be able to last more than a few moves. That would be suicide. Is there anything else you want to say? No, that's all. The talon-shaped nose old man had no choice but to leave. Chu Kuangren stared at his retreating figure and said, what's wrong with him to come all the way here just for a corpse? He wants to bring it back as a sacrificial offering. At that moment, Immortal Sage said. She told Chu Kuangren about the talon-shaped nose old man's plan. Immortal Sage's younger sister was married to the Outer Seas and later became a sacrificial offering for the serpent deity. She knew a little about it. The serpent deity's prestige in the 36 oceanic islands is very high. It's all thanks to the serpent deity that the 36 oceanic islands are able to achieve what they are today. Hence, every decade, the 36 oceanic islands would offer a batch of sacrificial offerings to the serpent deity. Over the years, countless people have died in the hands of the serpent deity. Even so, the 36 oceanic islands still worship him as a deity. What a pity. Immortal Sage shook her head and said. At that, Chu Kuangren felt that the 36 oceanic islands were similar to the Nine-Head clan. They both worshipped a long serpent as their deity. Could the serpent deity be a nine-headed snakelet too? He shook his head to get rid of the unrealistic idea. The nine-headed snakelet was an ancient wild beast that was extremely rare. How could he encounter two of them at once? The chances were too low. The serpent deity. If I have the chance in the future, I'd like to meet him. Chu Kuangren smiled. For the 36 oceanic islands to worship him like a deity, he must be at least a sage ruler. A sage ruler was the top existence among the sages. In this era where emperors did not appear, a sage ruler was the strongest. Chu Kuangren might have a hard time dealing with a sage ruler now, but if they were to fight, he might stand a chance. After all, he had many trump cards up his sleeves. D****. I can't believe that Chu Kuangren would appear out of nowhere and mess things up. Since I can't get my hands on the three-headed hound's corpse, I guess I'll have to find another way. Yuan Wudao, who had left the school of White Lotus, was furious. Then, he seemed to have thought of something. I heard that the winged human tribe also has a demonic well sealed. Maybe I can go there and try. However, he seemed to have thought of something and stopped in his tracks. How could I forget that the woman beside Chu Kuangren is from the winged human tribe? If something happens to the winged human tribe, he might be lured there. F***ck, why is Chu Kuangren everywhere? Yuan Wudao was frustrated. Chapter 362. Congratulations, host. You have drawn the legendary formation, the astonishing cloud of seas formation. On this day, Chu Kuangren drew his gacha as usual. He had drawn a legendary array formation. Chu Kuangren was surprised. My luck has been pretty good these few days. First a celestial physique, and now a legendary formation. Does the school of White Lotus have an additional luck attribute? Chu Kuangren rubbed his chin in wonder. Before he had the lucky halo, he had already drawn a legendary meditational clarity. Now that he had the lucky halo, he had drawn a celestial physique and a legendary formation in the school of White Lotus. Could the school of White Lotus be his blessed land? Looks like I should come here more often in the future. Chu Kuangren chuckled. After reading the introduction of the astonishing cloud of seas formation, Chu Kuangren was shocked to find out that it was a super large formation. It could cover a radius of 10,000 kilometers. Holy sh**t, this is a mountain guarding formation prepared for the Black Heaven sect. Chu Kuangren exclaimed. In terms of value, although the astonishing cloud of seas formation was a legendary formation like the Four Seasons sword formation, it was definitely more valuable than the Four Seasons sword formation. The Black Heaven sect may have a mountain guarding formation, but it's nothing compared to this astonishing cloud of seas formation. With so many unknown lands appearing one after another in this world, even sage orthodoxies can't sit back and relax. This formation has arrived just in time. Chu Kuangren was a little excited. He read the introduction of the formation again and realized that the Black Heaven sect still lacked some materials to set up this formation. However, he was not in a hurry. He could find them. Let's go back to the Black Heaven sect and set up this formation. Chu Kuangren smiled. Hence, he bid farewell to Immortal Sage with Lan Yu that morning. On the way back, he received a message from Elder Ruyan. Sect leader, the Underworld Palace has made a move. Oh, tell me about it. Chu Kuangren asked with interest. He had just killed a King Yen Luo of the Underworld yesterday, and in the blink of an eye, the Underworld had already made a move. Wasn't this too fast? Was it Yuan Wudao's order? It seemed like the Underworld Palace was in cahoots with them. Zhao Tianlong has received a message from the Underworld. The Underworld wants him to poison the Black Heaven sect and create chaos, Elder Ruyan said. Zhao Tianlong was the spy that the underworld had planted in the Black Heaven sect. It was now under Chu Kuangren's control. What? Poison, this trick is too low level. Moreover, don't they know that I'm an alchemy grandmaster? The underworld should know that I am an alchemy grandmaster, so why did they still poison me? Are they sure that I can't cure this poison? But to poison and create chaos, how much poison would it take to do that? A poison that even an alchemy grandmaster couldn't cure must be very precious. If it was just to create chaos, there was no need to use such a precious poison. I'm afraid that even hell wouldn't be able to find many of such poisons. In that case, the detoxification itself should not be the main point. They knew that Chu Kuangren could detoxify the poison. Then the main point was, they're trying to poison me and create chaos so that they can lure an alchemy grandmaster like me back to the Black Heaven sect. Here comes the question. Why did they lure me back to the Black Heaven sect? Are you afraid that my presence outside will affect them? Chu Kuangren pondered. By the way, sect leader, Zhao Tianlong also said that the underworld palace is going to attack the winged human tribe, Elder Ruyan said. The winged human tribe? How did it have anything to do with the winged human tribe? Chu Kuangren thought for a while and a thought flashed across his mind. Yuan Wudao, the underworld palace, the three-headed hound, poisoning him to lure him away, the winged human tribe's demonic well, all sorts of clues connected in his mind. I understand now. Elder Ruyan was confused on the other end of the communication compass. What did the sect leader understand? Why did she not understand? Elder Ruyan, find someone to test the poison. If it's not fatal, then cooperate with the underworld palace and put on a show. Fairfrost Sage has some antidotes that I refined that can cure hundreds of poisons. Take some for emergencies. Also, have Zhao Tianlong send a message to the underworld palace in a day, saying that I've returned to the Black Heaven sect, Chu Kuangren instructed. All right. Elder Ruyan did as she was told. Not long after, a large number of disciples were poisoned in the Black Heaven sect. News of Chu Kuangren returning to the sect to refine pills and cure the poison spread to the higher-ups of the underworld palace. Inside the underworld palace, among the 10 kings of the underworld palace, other than King Yen Luo, who had just been killed by Chu Kuangren, the other 9, including the newly appointed King Wuguan and King Chakra, were all gathered in a hall, discussing something. Chu Kuangren has returned to the Black Heaven sect, King Qingguang, who had the highest prestige among the 10 kings of the underworld palace, said to the others. Are you sure it's Chu Kuangren? News from our spies says that there are continuous pill clouds in the Black Heaven sect's alchemy room. Apart from the alchemy grandmasters, not many people have this level of alchemy Dao. It must be that Chu Kuangren. Very well. Then we'll stick to the original plan. Let King Wuguan, King Chujiang, and King Chakra assist the young master. All right. The newly appointed Chakra King, King Wuguan, looked excited. If they succeeded, they would definitely be valued by the young master. Then, they would be able to hook up with the Acheron Manor's young master. With that, they would have a meteoric rise and even enter the Acheron Manor. The Winged Human Tribe. The Winged Human Tribe was not peaceful today. 3 kings from the underworld palace led a group of demonic cultivators and suddenly barged in. No one could stop them. The Winged Human Tribe was only an honorable orthodoxy, and the strongest Winged Human Tribe leader was only an honorable supreme. How could they resist the underworld palace? Not long after, the people from the underworld palace arrived at the place where the demonic well was sealed. Looking at the altar in front of him, King Chujiang could not help but frown. Something's not right. Things are going too smoothly. Beside him, King Chakra said, there's nothing wrong. The Winged Human Tribe leader went to visit an old friend yesterday. Without an honorable supreme, the Winged Human Tribe is like a piece of paper to us. The difference in strength between the underworld palace and the winged human tribe was too great. Of all times, he went to visit an old friend. As the only honorable supreme in the tribe, shouldn't he be watching over the winged human tribe? What's there to watch over? The lady beside Chu Kuangren is from the winged human tribe. With this relationship, even if the winged human tribe leader is not here, who in this world would dare to provoke us? King Wuguan said. At this point, even though the demonic orthodoxies were very hostile towards Chu Kuangren, he could not help but look at him with admiration. His name alone is enough to shock the world. How majestic and glorious is that? Alright, stop sighing and hurry up. If we wait for Chu Kuangren to come back to his senses, no one will be able to save us. King Chujiang did not think too much about it and threw a punch at the altar. The terrifying fist energy landed on the altar, but there were lines of runes circulating on the altar, and King Chujiang's fist energy was easily blocked. Is this the seal that sealed the demonic well? Keep attacking, don't stop. King Chujiang, and King Wuguan took turns to attack the runic seal, but it was to no avail. It was a seal left behind by the sage ruler of light, so it was impossible for a few honorable supremes to break it. Chapter 363. Can they do it or not? In the void, Chu Kuangren could not help but roll his eyes as he watched the Chakra King and the others attack the altar to no avail. At that moment, he saw a black figure flying towards him from afar. That person was Yuan Wudao, whom Chu Kuangren had met 2 days ago. He snorted coldly. You can't even break a single seal. What a bunch of useless fools. Get out of my way, let me do this. He raised his hand and channeled the demonic chi in his body, which transformed into a black skull that smashed towards the altar. The violent energy landed on the altar's seal. The entire winged human tribe's territory trembled. However, the seal was not damaged in the slightest. The Chakra King and the others looked at Yuan Wudao strangely. In the void, Chu Kuangren could not help but hold his forehead. Why don't I help them break this seal? Lan Yu could not help but chuckle beside him. This is a seal left behind by the sage ruler Light. They won't be able to break it so easily. Under the stares of the Chakra King and the others, Yuan Wudao felt a little embarrassed. Looks like I've underestimated this seal. I can't believe I can't break it even after using half of my strength. Then, he raised his hand and channeled the demonic chi again. A surge of Daoist rhyme erupted from his body and merged with the demonic chi. An even larger and more terrifying black skull appeared out of thin air and smashed towards the altar's seal. Black demonic sky devourer. With a loud bang, the void trembled. An extremely powerful force swept out in all directions. Cracks began to appear on the seal on the altar. Finally, the seal was broken. A pitch-black, whirlpool-like demonic well appeared in the void, and waves of demonic chi gushed out from it. Yuan Wudao could not help but smile when he felt the demonic chi. On the other hand, the other demonic cultivators were terrified. Although they were called demonic cultivators, they were still cultivators of the firmament star. They cultivated spiritual power, which was incompatible with the demonic chi. To them, the demonic chi was harmful. As the demonic chi surged, demonic creatures flew out from the demonic well. Some of them were from the fallen winged human tribe. Ha, the human realm, we're here again. Occupy this place. Yuan Wudao snorted when he saw these demonic creatures. Kill. Behind him, the Chakra King and the others began to hunt down the demonic creatures. This puzzled the winged humans who had been knocked down. What was going on? They had invaded the winged human tribe and opened the demonic well with great difficulty. Now, they were going to hunt down the demonic creatures that came out of the demonic well. Was there something wrong with them? In the void, Chu Kuangren was not surprised to see that. As expected, Yuan Wudao is collecting demonic creatures. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. First, he had gone to the school of White Lotus to ask for the Cerberus. After that, he had set his eyes on the demonic well of the winged human tribe. He had even tried to lure him back to the Black Heaven sect, fearing that he would cause trouble. However, why did he want to collect demonic creatures? What does this have to do with the source of the devil chi in his body? Chu Kuangren had yet to understand all of these. But I believe there will be an answer soon. Chu Kuangren smiled as he looked down at Yuan Wudao and the others who were busy killing the demonic beasts. He wanted to see what other tricks these people had up their sleeves. The hunt continued. The scale of the winged human tribe's demonic well was very small. It could only allow those below the level of a sage to pass through. There were not even many honorable supremes. To Yuan Wudao and the others, this was not a threat at all. Perhaps that was the reason why Yuan Wudao had set his sights on the winged human tribe. That way, they would not have to worry about encountering demonic creatures that they could not defeat. About 2 hours later, Yuan Wudao and the others had already collected many demonic corpses. When they felt that it was about time, they began to retreat. Once they were far away, the demonic creatures that had been slaughtered and were trembling in fear once again regained their arrogance. They're finally gone. These puny winged human tribe won't be able to stop us. One of the fallen winged human tribe members laughed out loud. However, at that moment, a giant golden hand descended from the sky. The majestic Buddhist light shattered the fallen winged human tribe member and the demonic creatures around him. The sudden attack stunned all the demonic creatures. Who are these people? They had finally broken out of the seal, so why did they encounter so many terrifying beings? They were not demonic sages or demonic honorables. Meanwhile, some of the demonic creatures that had just escaped from the demonic well were so scared when they saw the giant golden hand that they immediately ran back into the demonic realm. It's too scary, too scary. The human realm was too scary. Chu Kuangren descended from the sky with a Buddhist light on his body. Under this Buddhist light, all the demonic creatures were purified and disappeared. The Buddhist light had a suppressive effect on demonic chi. Not far away, Lan Yu came to the altar and took out the scepter of light. With the light Daoist rhyme circulating around her body, she began to repair the seal. With her previous experience and the huge increase in her cultivation level, it did not take long for the seal to be repaired. Sect leader Chu, Lan Yu. The winged human tribe leader walked over and breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that the seal had been successfully repaired. Tribe leader Yen, I'll have to trouble you to help me put on this show. It's alright, as long as I can help. However, what are the people of the underworld palace collecting these demonic creatures for? We'll find out soon enough. Chu Kuangren looked at the direction where Yuan Wudao and the others had left. He brought Lan Yu with him and followed. In the void, Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu concealed their auras and followed behind Yuan Wudao and the others. However, they were completely unaware of their presence. It could only be said that Chu Kuangren's ability to conceal his aura was very powerful. However, that was not a big deal. After all, he knew many techniques, so it was normal for him to have a few techniques that could conceal his aura. A day and a night later, Yuan Wudao and the others arrived at the depths of a mountain range. There was a bronze door in the depths of the mountain range. On it, there was a strange scene of thousands of ghosts wailing and howling. We're finally here. Yuan Wudao looked at the strange bronze door with a hint of joy in his eyes. Take out the demonic creatures and let them bleed. He instructed King Chujiang and the others behind him. The few of them took out the various demonic creatures that they had killed in the winged human tribe's territory, cut open the corpses, and started to bleed. The crimson demonic blood flowed onto the ground and gathered at the bronze door. The bronze door trembled as all the demonic blood was absorbed. The surface of the bronze door was gradually dyed red. The records were right. The demonic hoarder forefather's bronze door can only be opened with demonic blood. Now, everything that belonged to the demonic hoarder forefather is mine. Yuan Wudao stared at the bronze door with a fiery gaze. Gradually, the red light on the bronze door became thicker and thicker. It was almost as if the entire door was dyed red. Young master, the demonic blood is almost depleted. At that moment, the Chakra King said as he looked at the bronze door. The demonic blood was almost depleted, but the bronze door still showed no signs of opening. They're just low-level demonic creatures after all. D***mn. If I could get my hands on Cerberus, its demonic blood would definitely open this bronze door. It's all that D***mn Chu Kuangren's fault. Yuan Wudao gritted his teeth. Then, he looked at the bronze door in front of him. Unwilling to give up just like that, he took out a dagger and slit his wrist. A large amount of blood gushed out and flowed towards the bronze door. He cultivated demonic qi, so naturally, his blood was demonic blood as well. After a while, when Yuan Wudao's face started to turn pale, the bronze door that had absorbed enough demonic blood suddenly shook and slowly opened. A surge of demonic qi that had been sealed for a long time gushed out. Chapter 364. When the bronze door opened, boundless demonic qi gushed out. A smile appeared on Yuan Wudao's face as he channeled his demonic qi to stop the bleeding. He then took out a medicinal pill and swallowed it to recover his energy. Come, let's go in. He led the group into the bronze door. Once they entered, they saw a spacious space filled with piles of demonic beasts' carcasses. Some of the carcasses were incomplete, and there were also various instruments that contained demonic beast organs. The scene before them was a huge visual shock to the group. F***ck is the demonic hoarder forefather a psychopath? Not only did he put so many demonic beast carcasses in his house, he even disemboweled them. I feel disgusted just thinking about it. Rumor has it that the demonic hoarder forefather stole the power of the demonic realm and became one of the first to master demonic qi cultivation techniques. Did he use this method to research it? Look, there's something over there. The Chakra King suddenly pointed in a certain direction in shock. On the table in front of everyone, there was a pile of jade slips, bottles, jars, and the like. Yuan Wudao picked up one of the jade scrolls and channeled his spiritual thoughts into his mind. This is some of the demonic hoarder forefather's research. His demonic qi cultivation technique was indeed created by dissecting these demonic beasts. I have to say, he's a genius. Yuan Wudao said in awe. Even if he had 10 more brains, he would never have thought of using such a method to research demonic qi cultivation techniques. It was just too unbelievable. I've heard that some doctors in the mortal realm also use dissecting human bodies to research medical knowledge. I think the demonic hoarder forefather must have used this method to research cultivation techniques. King Chujiang said. Chu Kuangren, who was hiding in the void, could not help but be amazed by the scene. I didn't expect the demonic hoarder forefather to be a Frankenstein. Impressive, impressive. The demonic hoarder forefather was also a genius in the past. If it wasn't for that sage war, who knows what kind of achievements he would have made today, Yuan Wudao said. Sage war? The speaker did not mean it, but the listener did. When Chu Kuangren heard the word sage war, he was reminded of the sage ruler Light, the eternal sage ruler, and the others who participated in the sage war. It was also because of that holy war that the current ancient battlefield was formed. These unknown lands had deep foundations and a long history, so it was not surprising that they knew about the holy war. Perhaps some of them had even participated in it before. Yuan Wudao picked up a jade bottle on the table, which contained some strange pills that emitted a strange smell. This is a demon pill developed by the demonic hoarder patriarch in the past. It's quite effective for cultivators who cultivate demon qi. Yuan Wudao stored all the elixirs into his interspatial ring. Then, they continued to search in the same place. Soon, everyone arrived at a basement. Surprisingly, there was a fireball floating on the ceiling of the basement. The fireball was filled with a cold and gloomy demonic aura. What a strange aura. This should be some kind of strange flame. Tisk, rumor has it that the demon realm of hell is the coldest place in the world, and it is very difficult to produce flames there. However, there is a kind of flame that can burn in hell, and it is called hellfire. Is this hellfire? It is indeed peculiar. Be careful, don't touch the flames. Everyone carefully avoided the flames above their heads. With the help of the flames, everyone could see the situation in the basement. There was a pool in the basement. The pool was filled with a black and viscous liquid. It was squirming as if it was alive, and it exuded a chilling aura. Yuan Wudao was ecstatic when he saw the liquid in the pool. I've finally found it. This is the demonic liquid that the demonic hoarder patriarch developed according to the ancient records. It's a highly pure demonic qi essence. Yuan Wudao looked at the pool of demonic liquid excitedly. As long as I can absorb all of this demonic liquid, I'll definitely be able to break through to the sage realm. By then, suppressing Chu Kuangren won't be a problem at all. Oh, is that so? At that moment, Yuan Wudao heard a familiar yet unfamiliar voice in the basement. His expression changed. He quickly turned around, only to see that a man and a woman had appeared behind the crowd without him noticing. These two people were Chu Kuangren and Lan Yu. The demonic cultivators turned pale when they saw them, especially when they looked at Chu Kuangren. It was as if they had seen a ghost. What's going on? Why are you here all of a sudden? The Chakra King and King Wuguan said. Oh, I shouldn't be here. Where should I be then? Refining pills to cure the poison in the Black Heaven sect? Chu Kuangren said playfully. Everyone understood that Chu Kuangren had long seen through their plan to lure them away. They had always been under Chu Kuangren's control. At that thought, the few of them looked horrified. You've been following us all the way here? Yuan Wudao asked coldly. Yes, Chu Kuangren said playfully. Everyone could not help but feel a chill down their spines. Chu Kuangren had been following them all the way here, and they did not even realize it. If he wanted to do anything to them, no one dared to think further. They only felt one thing, and that was that their lives were no longer in Chu Kuangren's hands. What do you want? Yuan Wudao could not help but feel his heart skip a beat. However, at this point, he could only try to negotiate with Chu Kuangren. What do you want? I think the stuff in this place is pretty good. I want that pool of demonic liquid behind you, Chu Kuangren said. Impossible. Yuan Wudao roared. He had flipped through countless books to find this pool of demonic liquid. It was impossible for him to give it up. Let's be clear. I'm not asking for your opinion. It's none of my business whether you agree or not, Chu Kuangren said. Chu Kuangren, this is a demonic liquid. It shouldn't be of any use to you. How about this? You can take everything else from the demonic hoarder forefather, but not this demonic liquid. No way. Chu Kuangren, you're being unreasonable. We were the ones who found this place, and the bronze door was opened with my demonic blood. I was the one who did all the work from the beginning to the end. This demonic potion is useless to you, so why must you be so aggressive? Are you not going to leave me a way out? Yuan Wudao was furious. The more he spoke, the angrier he felt. Why? Why is there such an unreasonable person in this world? He was the one who did everything, and the other party reaped the fruits of his labor. In the end, they did not even leave him a single benefit. Do they really think that I, an Empyrean walker, am a freeloader? Are demonic orthodoxies trying to be reasonable? Chu Kuangren laughed, and a cold glare shot out from his eyes. Meanwhile, the Chakra King and King Wuguan looked at each other before they attacked Chu Kuangren from the left and right respectively. To them, instead of waiting for death, it was better to fight with everything they had. That way, they might have a chance of survival. Chapter 365. Oh no! King Chujiang's expression changed. He was not as impulsive as Chakra King and King Wuguan. He knew very well that the few of them were no match for Chu Kuangren. It would be too easy for Chu Kuangren to kill them. The moment he saw Chakra King and King Wuguan making their moves, he knew what would happen. Chu Kuangren gently raised his hand as if he was swatting a fly, and an incredibly powerful force erupted. Unable to defend themselves, Chakra King and King Wuguan spat out blood on the spot as they were sent flying. One of them crashed into the hellfire, and sparks flew everywhere, instantly burning an honorable supreme into ashes. The other one fell into the demonic liquid. That wriggling demonic liquid started to boil and wrapped around the other party like a living creature. King Wuguan screamed in pain as his body emitted white smoke. In just a few breaths, he had been corroded into a pile of bones. Not knowing if it was an illusion, the crowd realized that the amount of demonic liquid seemed to have increased. Oh no! Not only can this demonic liquid corrode a cultivator's physical body, but it can also transform a cultivator's spiritual power into demonic qi. Yuan Wudao's expression changed when he saw the demonic liquid's characteristics. He had never read about such a thing in the ancient records. What the hell did the demonic hoarder forefather create? Rumble, the entire basement started to tremble. The pool in front of the crowd started to expand, and a huge amount of demonic liquid spread out. Its scale was far beyond what they had seen before. Not only that, but the crowd also saw a huge pit at the bottom of the pool, and inside it were skeletons. There were so many of them that they were piled up like a mountain. There were probably more than 100,000 of them. What the hell? Let's go, let's go. King Chujiang led the rest of the demonic cultivators away. However, the demonic liquid spread so quickly that it covered the entire basement in the blink of an eye. It even soared into the sky and destroyed the demonic hoarder old man's residence before spreading out of the bronze door. King Chujiang and the rest of the demonic cultivators could not resist the demonic liquid at all, and they were soon corroded into skeletons. When the hellfire landed on the demonic liquid, not only was it not extinguished, but it ignited as if it had landed on oil instead. A huge amount of demonic liquid mixed with the hellfire spread in all directions, forming a sea of hellfire. So much magic liquid. Yuan Wudao circulated his demonic qi around his body, forming a barrier to defend himself against the demonic liquid. Looking at the demonic liquid before him, his eyes burned with passion. He suddenly came to a realization. If he absorbed this seemingly endless demonic liquid, how strong would he become? Just thinking about it made Yuan Wudao tremble with excitement. Opportunity, this is a great opportunity. However, perhaps because it assimilated too many cultivators' spiritual energy and was affected by their resentment, this demonic liquid is even more violent than I imagined. With my ability, I can only absorb a little at a time, and I also have to find a way to expel the hellfire attached to it. Yuan Wudao murmured excitedly. He then looked at Chu Kuangren, who was not far away from him. He noticed that there was a mysterious Daoist rhyme circulating around Chu Kuangren's body, and numerous white lotuses surrounded the void. Any demonic liquid that got close to Chu Kuangren would be purified. This must be the school of white lotus light of purification. It's indeed mysterious, but it's a shame that it's impossible to purify this demonic liquid with this technique alone. This is a high-purity demonic qi essence, and with the addition of the hellfire, even the White Lotus Sage Ruler can't do anything about it. Yuan Wudao gloated. Only he, who cultivated demonic qi, could move freely in this demonic liquid. The demonic liquid would treat him as one of its own. Master, what should we do now? Lan Yu stood beside Chu Kuangren and asked. Don't worry, it'll be fine. Chu Kuangren smiled as he looked at the demonic liquid. Stay here and don't move. Wait for me for a while. Then, Chu Kuangren dispersed the white lotus light of purification. Lan Yu activated her radiant Daoist physique to resist the demonic liquid's corrosion. She looked at Chu Kuangren, who was walking towards the depths of the pool, unguarded. Not far away, Yuan Wudao's eyes widened. Even if he's a sage ruler, he'll still die if he walks into the demonic liquid just like that. What is this guy trying to do? To Yuan Wudao, Chu Kuangren's actions were no different from suicide. The demonic liquid submerged Chu Kuangren's ankles, knees, waist. Gradually, Chu Kuangren walked into the depths of the demonic liquid and was engulfed by it. Yuan Wudao could not sense Chu Kuangren's aura due to the demonic liquid's obstruction. Just when Yuan Wudao was puzzled, the demonic liquid around him suddenly boiled, and the demonic liquid that was gushing out began to flow backwards. The demonic liquid flowed back into the depths of the pool as if it was being sucked back by a terrifying force. Yuan Wudao stared at the scene in disbelief. He knew that this was all Chu Kuangren's doing. What the hell did this guy do? Yuan Wudao stared at the depths of the pool. A huge amount of demonic liquid flowed back, but it did not fill up the pool. It was as if it was being sucked away by an unknown entity. The amount of demonic liquid rapidly decreased until it formed into a black blob of water the size of a human. When the black blob of water dissipated, Chu Kuangren's figure was revealed. The huge amount of demonic liquid had been absorbed into his body. Yuan Wudao felt his head spin, and he wondered if he was dreaming. The scene of Chu Kuangren absorbing the demonic liquid was too shocking for him. Even though he cultivated demonic qi, he could only absorb a small amount of demonic liquid at a time. Chu Kuangren, on the other hand, had absorbed all the demonic liquid in one go. Not only that, but he did not even spare the hellfire that was attached to it. It was unbelievable. So this is the universal cauldron physique? It's indeed powerful. Chu Kuangren was very satisfied with the demonic liquid and the hellfire's energy that was contained within his body. Of course, compared to the demonic liquid, the hellfire's energy was almost negligible. The universal cauldron physique allowed one to absorb all kinds of strange energies between heaven and earth and convert them into the energy needed for one's cultivation. Since demonic qi was also a kind of strange energy, it was only natural that Chu Kuangren could absorb the demonic liquid. Moreover, the universal cauldron physique was much more powerful than Chu Kuangren had imagined. He had absorbed all the demonic liquid into his body in such a short time. Of course, he had only absorbed it, not refined it. Aside from absorbing and refining strange energies, the universal cauldron physique could also store them within his body. Chu Kuangren could now feel that every piece of his flesh, every fiber, and even every cell in his body was filled with a huge amount of demonic liquid energy. With just a thought, he could begin to refine this energy and convert it into the spiritual power needed for his current cultivation level. However, Chu Kuangren did not intend to refine it for now. He wanted to preserve this energy so that he could use it to form the Supreme Sage Foundation level in the future. How? How did you do it? Beside him, Yuan Wudao could not hold back his shock and curiosity as he asked. Chu Kuangren glanced at him before he gently lifted his hand and responded with the giant palm of exorcism. Chapter 366. With a lift of his arm, the giant palm of exorcism was unleashed. While Yuan Wudao was still in shock, the demonic qi within his body gushed out and instantly formed into a skull that smashed towards the golden palm. However, when the two energies collided, Yuan Wudao was blasted out of the basement. His face was pale as a sheet as he half knelt on the ground. Chu Kuangren, what are you doing? Idiot, can't you tell? I'm killing you, of course. Chu Kuangren slowly walked out of the basement and said. His gaze was as cold as ice. With a lift of his arm, a majestic golden Buddhist light gushed out and formed into a golden ancient Buddha. Emperor Technique, Tathagata Rebirth Mantra. You ordered the people of the Underworld Palace to poison my Black Heaven sect disciples in an attempt to create chaos in the sect. Do you think this matter will be resolved just like that? Chu Kuangren, since you didn't return to the Black Heaven sect, it means that our plan didn't work. The Black Heaven sect probably didn't suffer any losses this time. If that's the case, why are you still so aggressive? Yuan Wudao said loudly. Chu Kuangren could not help but laugh at his words. You wanted to harm my Black Heaven sect, but you didn't. Does that mean you can pretend that nothing happened? Indeed, there's no reason for me to reason with you demonic orthodoxies. He shook his head. The golden ancient Buddha behind him chanted and lowered its arm. A majestic Buddhist light that contained an endless amount of domineering aura descended from the sky. Yuan Wudao braced himself against the Buddhist light of the ancient Buddha while his demonic aura swirled around him. A giant black eye materialized in the void, and a deathly Daoist rhyme circled around it as it fought against the Buddhist light. That was the Acheron Manor's strongest technique. Eye of Acheron. With a roar, Yuan Wudao channeled all of his demonic qi, and a pitch-black demonic light shot out from the Eye of Acheron. The demonic light and the Buddhist palm collided. It was a battle between two emperor techniques, and the shockwaves from the collision instantly turned the demonic hoarder Daoist's residence into ruins. The bronze door trembled violently, and the entire mystic realm shattered. It began to collapse, forming a terrifying spatial power. The impact of the demonic light and Buddhist light hit Chu Kuangren and Yuan Wudao at the same time. However, Chu Kuangren stood his ground without moving an inch. Yuan Wudao, on the other hand, spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. At that moment, he took out a talisman and crushed it. A wave of spatial power instantly enveloped him and formed a white barrier of light. Chu Kuangren could not help but squint when he saw that. Greater Teleportation Talisman. Yuan Wudao had used a Greater Teleportation Talisman, which allowed him to travel hundreds of thousands of miles in the blink of an eye. Upon seeing that, Chu Kuangren unsheathed the Descendant Self-Sword at his waist. A dazzling purple sword ray was unleashed at an extremely fast speed. The sword light broke through the white barrier formed by the power of space, and the instant Yuan Wudao was teleported away, it chopped off one of his arms, causing a large amount of blood to splatter out. In the next instant, Yuan Wudao disappeared from where he was standing. Chu Kuangren curled his lips. You sure are lucky. He raised his hand and pulled Yuan Wudao's severed arm toward him. Then, he removed the interspatial ring on it. He scanned the ring with his spiritual thoughts and found some good stuff inside. Other things aside, there was a huge pile of soul stones alone. The surrounding spatial power became more and more intense, and the entire secret realm began to collapse into a black vortex the size of a fist. Like a black hole, it devoured and shattered everything in its path. Under this power, even a supreme paragon would undoubtedly die. Chu Kuangren quickly left the scene with Lan Yu and watched from dozens of miles away as the secret realm slowly collapsed. The fist-sized black hole devoured everything within a radius of dozens of miles. After a while, the black hole disappeared, and the secret realm was completely destroyed. Chu Kuangren pondered as he looked at the disappearing black hole. A black hole was one of the forms of spatial power. With Chu Kuangren's current understanding of spatial power, he could easily construct a stable independent spatial structure in the void. In other words, a secret realm. However, it would be extremely difficult to create a black hole out of thin air. Spatial power was not the only factor involved in this. However, if Chu Kuangren could master a spatial form like a black hole, it would be a terrifying killing machine. Chu Kuangren pondered for a while before he left with Lan Yu. B*****. B*****. Hundreds of thousands of miles away from the demonic hoarder forefather's residence, Yuan Wudao screamed in pain as he clutched his broken arm. This time, he had undoubtedly suffered a huge setback. Not only did he not obtain the demonic hoarder forefather's inheritance, but he was also severely injured by Chu Kuangren. Even his yin and yang ring was taken away by Chu Kuangren. No, I must retrieve my yin and yang ring. There's a heavenly jade amulet in there, and it must not be lost. Yuan Wudao gritted his teeth and said. That heavenly jade amulet was too important. It was related to an opportunity of fortune that was far greater than the demonic hoarder forefathers. Not only him, but many of the Empyrean walkers who had entered the realm this time were also here for this opportunity of fortune. That heavenly jade amulet was an important token of this opportunity of fortune. I'll find a place to recuperate first, then I'll contact my honorable teacher and ask them to send someone to the Black Heaven sect to retrieve that heavenly jade amulet. Yuan Wudao thought to himself. At this time, Chu Kuangren was on his way back to the sect on the elusive mirage. In his hand was a chipped ring-shaped heavenly jade amulet that was surrounded by a mysterious Daoist rhyme and an emperor's aura. Chu Kuangren knew that anything that was related to the emperor's aura was not simple. This heavenly jade amulet could very well contain a secret. He put the heavenly jade amulet away and would investigate it when he had the time. When he returned to the sect, he found Elder Ruyan and the others and asked them about the poisoning incident. Since Zhao Tianlong had betrayed them, and the Black Heaven sect had two alchemy grandmasters, Fairfrost Sage and Gujiang, they did not suffer any losses. At most, a few disciples were upset for a few days. Zhao Tianlong, you did well this time. There are 12 sage techniques in the Black Heaven sect. Go ahead and pick one. Chu Kuangren said. Thank you, sect leader, Zhao Tianlong said excitedly. He was already a true disciple of the Black Heaven sect, so he was qualified to learn the 12 sage techniques. However, due to his identity as an underworld palace spy, he did not have the chance to learn them. Now, Chu Kuangren had finally given him the chance. This made him swear to himself that he would perform well so that he could get rid of his identity as an underworld palace spy and integrate into the Black Heaven sect. These days, he had made up his mind. What was so good about staying in the underworld palace? He might as well join the Black Heaven sect. With Chu Kuangren in the Black Heaven sect, their future was much better than the underworld palace. After dealing with some trivial matters, Chu Kuangren prepared to set up the astonishing cloud of seas formation. However, he still lacked two key materials to set up this formation, and the Black Heaven sect did not have these two materials. Looks like I need to look for that person. Chu Kuangren looked into the distance. The astonishing cloud of seas formation had to be set up as soon as possible. There was no room for mistakes. Chu Kuangren personally set off to look for that person. That person would definitely be able to help him. Just as Chu Kuangren was busy setting up the formation, the Empyrean walkers on the firmament star made a new move. An Empyrean walker who claimed to be from the Cloud of Nine Heavens set up an arena at the Empyrean peak of the Black Warrior domain and publicly challenged all Empyrean walkers. This news shocked the world. Chapter 367. In a large city, there was one of the largest trading firms. Its name was the Four Seas Trading Firm. It was the largest trading firm on Firmament Star. Its businesses covered the four domains and even the outer seas, and its wealth was comparable to that of a nation. The Four Seas Trading Firm was Chu Kuangren's target this time. The Four Seas Trading Firm. Chu Kuangren arrived at the place. As soon as he entered, he was greeted with a sense of splendor. This trading firm was decorated with gold and jade, and the richly ornamented beams and rafters were even more luxurious than many royal palaces. Fellow Daoist, may I know what brings you here? A receptionist walked up to him. I'm looking for your manager, Chu Kuangren said without hesitation. Upon hearing that, the receptionist was stunned for a moment. He then sized Chu Kuangren up. Although his face was covered by the spiritual aura, his temperament was extraordinary. He must be an extraordinary person. The receptionist thought like this, and then said, "Please wait a moment, I'll go inform the shopkeeper." Not long after, a middle-aged man in a brocade robe walked over. Fellow Daoist, may I know what business you wish to discuss with me? The middle-aged man smiled warmly at Chu Kuangren. Upon seeing him, Chu Kuangren's eyes flashed with disappointment. You must be the manager of this branch, right? That's fine too. You should have a way to contact the head manager of your main branch, right? The head manager of the main branch? The middle-aged man was shocked. This person was here to look for the head manager. However, the Four Seas trading firm's head manager was a mystery, and his identity was a mystery. Not many people could see him. Although the branch manager of the Four Seas trading firm had a way to contact him, it was extremely difficult to meet him. Why are you looking for our head manager? To discuss a business deal with him. Heh, you must be joking. Our head manager has never discussed business with anyone personally. Besides, if it's a business deal of less than 100 million soul stones, our branch can handle it without the head manager's involvement. The middle-aged man smiled and said confidently. However, when he saw the spiritual aura on Chu Kuangren's face disappear, his expression froze, and then he was dumbfounded. Just tell him that I, Chu Kuangren, am here to discuss business with him and ask if he wants to come, Chu Kuangren said. The middle-aged man, the busy attendants around him, and the guests were all stunned as they stared at Chu Kuangren. I will definitely pass on Sect Master Chu's words to the head shopkeeper. Please wait for a moment. The middle-aged man quickly regained his senses and said hurriedly. He would never have thought that Chu Kuangren would be the one to discuss business with him. When the middle-aged man recalled Chu Kuangren's past deeds and his infamous reputation, he could not help but tremble in fear. How could this be business? If it was not handled properly, it would be a matter of life and death. The middle-aged man quickly contacted the head manager of the main branch, Qian Fugue. Not long after, Qian Fugue responded. Take good care of sect leader Chu. Tell him I'll be there tomorrow. Yes, yes. The middle-aged man did not dare to delay any further. He quickly arranged for the best guest room and the prettiest maid for Chu Kuangren. The next day, Qian Fugue came. What surprised Chu Kuangren the most was the fact that he was accompanied by another person. It was an old man whom Chu Kuangren had met once before. Shopkeeper Qian and Senior Destiny, how have you been? Chu Kuangren smiled at the two people in front of him. That was right. Besides Qian Fugue, the world's #1 divine predictor whom Chu Kuangren had met before. Divine Predictor. Junior Chu, you're even better than before. Divine Predictor smiled. The few of them sat together. Why is Senior Destiny with Shopkeeper Qian? Chu Kuangren asked curiously. I don't have any traveling expenses left, so I bumped into Shopkeeper Qian on the way here. That's why I'm here to freeload off him. Divine Predictor did not seem to care about his image as an expert. Qian Fugue, who was beside him, was not displeased. Instead, he looked extremely honored. After all, not everyone could freeload off the world's #1 divine predictor. Many people did not even have the right to freeload off him. By the way, sect leader Chu, what business do you want to discuss with me? I want to purchase 2 items. One is the cloud flow ore, and the other is the celestial chalcedony. The cloud flow ore is worth 10 million kilograms, and the celestial chalcedony is fine. I don't need a lot of it, but the quality must be high. Chu Kuangren listed out the 2 key materials needed to set up the astonishing cloud of seas formation, especially the latter. Although the cloud flow ore is a lot, it's not a problem. However, the celestial chalcedony is too rare, and the ones that can be found are all low-tier ones. I'm afraid this will be difficult, Shopkeeper Qian said. Chu Kuangren frowned at that. He knew that the celestial chalcedony was rare, but he did not expect that even the Four Seas firm, which had businesses all over the 4 domains and the outer seas, would find it difficult. I know a place that can produce a large amount of celestial chalcedony of excellent quality, Tian Jizi said at that moment. Chu Kuangren's eyes lit up. Where? The Ethereal Rapture. The Ethereal Rapture, an unknown place? Chu Kuangren guessed after some thought. That's right. However, very few people know where the ethereal rapture is. Even I can't pinpoint its location. If you want to find the ethereal rapture, you'll have to look for the current Empyrean walker there. Where should I look? The Empyrean Peak. Divine Predictor smiled. The Empyrean walker of the Nine-Cloud Rapture, Ling Shao, has set up an arena at the Empyrean Peak to challenge all Empyrean walkers. This event will surely attract the attention of the Empyrean walkers of the ethereal rapture. You'll find something wherever you go. Understood. Chu Kuangren nodded and handed over the matter of purchasing the cloud flow ore to Qian Fugui while he went to look for the Empyrean walkers of the ethereal rapture. Before he left, he took out the mysterious jade amulet that he had obtained from Yuan Wudao and asked Divine Predictor, "Senior, do you know what this is?" Divine Predictor's eyes lit up when he saw the jade amulet. "Oh, this is the Qian Imperial Palace's jade amulet. Where did you get it from?" "Senior, you do know about this item. I wonder if you can tell me more about it?" Chu Kuangren asked. The Qian Emperor was the last emperor of the ancient times. Rumor has it that he left behind an imperial palace when he fell, and it contains all the treasures and emperor's enlightenment that he had collected throughout his life. To open and enter the imperial palace, you'll need 8 jade amulets, and the one in your hand is one of them, Divine Predictor said. I see. This jade amulet is indeed a great opportunity of fortune. However, there are only a few records about the Qian Emperor. Why are there no records about the imperial palace at all? Chu Kuangren was puzzled. That's because they've all been erased by the unknown lands. Tian Jizi said indifferently, there has always been a saying in the unknown lands that the emperors didn't actually die. They went to another place, and before they left behind their legacies, waiting for a certain time to come and reappear in the world. In order to monopolize these emperors' inheritance, the unknown lands joined forces to erase all records about the emperors so that they could monopolize them and wait for the emperor's inheritance to reappear. This act is known by the Phantom Valley as burning books and hiding emperors. Divine Predictor's eyes flashed with mockery. Chapter 368. Burning Books and Hiding Emperors. Chu Kuangren muttered with a mocking look on his face. Unknown lands? In my opinion, they should change their name to the Shameless Lands. Emperors were the pinnacle of cultivation, and the birth of every emperor was accompanied by endless glory. Their deeds should have been passed down to the world, revered by future generations, and pointed out the direction of cultivation for future generations. However, these so-called unknown lands had sealed away the glory of the emperors for their own selfish desires, causing future cultivators to only know about emperors, but not what it meant to be an emperor. It was the heavenly Tao's shackles that no one could become an emperor during the era of Dharma's end. By burning books and hiding emperors, the unknown lands had created a cage for future cultivators. The future generations were trapped in this cage, unable to see the glory of an emperor, not knowing what an emperor could do, and not knowing how to become an emperor, the Shameless Lands. That's a good name. The Divine Predictor was stunned for a moment before he laughed out loud. He looked at Chu Kuangren with a strange look in his eyes. Even in the era of great battles, it's still extremely difficult to become an emperor. However, the unknown lands have the emperor's inheritance in their hands, so an emperor should be born from them. But young friend Chu, you're an exception. I hope to see you slap the faces of the unknown lands. Let them know that even if they burn their books and hide their emperors, and make everyone ignorant of them, there are still people who can break out of their cage and become emperors. The Divine Predictor was the best fortune teller of the current generation. He had long predicted that the chance of becoming an emperor would be firmly controlled by the unknown lands in this era of great battles, but now, an unfathomable anomaly had appeared. Things were developing in an unexpected direction. This made the Divine Predictor very interested. He himself did not have a good impression of the unknown lands, so naturally, he was happy to see this happen. With me, Chu Quanren, in this world, who would dare to become an emperor? Chu Quanren laughed and his figure turned into a stream of light, disappearing into the distance as he flew towards the Empyrean Peak. Black Warrior Domain, Empyrean Peak. After the Empyrean walker Ling Xiao of the Nine Cloud Rapture set up an arena here, this place became a gathering place. Countless sky prides came from all directions. Even the sages were paying close attention to this place. The Empyrean Peak was filled with people. At the peak of the mountain, there was a person standing proudly. This person's black hair draped over his shoulders, and his figure was straight. He held a black spear in his hand, and it was as if he and the spear had fused into one. An incomparably sharp aura circulated around this person, as if it could pierce through the sky. He was the Empyrean walker who had set up the arena, the Empyrean walker from the nine-cloud heaven of the unknown lands. Ling Xiao. Its name was Soaring Firmament, its spear was called Soaring Firmament, and its aura was as if it wanted to soar above the nine heavens. This person is Ling Xiao. He is indeed extraordinary. I heard that he has been in the world for 3 months, but the number of geniuses who have been defeated by him is in the double digits. His battle strength is even more terrifying than ordinary sages. Are all Empyrean walkers this insane? I really don't know how those so-called unknown lands nurtured them. It's too unbelievable. All this while, we thought that the most powerful forces were the sage orthodoxies. Who would have thought that there were so many so-called unknown places hidden in this world? Around the Empyrean Peak, countless people had gathered. Looking at Ling Xiao on the peak, they could not help but discuss among themselves. At that moment, a ray of green sword gleam flew through the sea of clouds and stopped before Ling Xiao. It transformed into a young man dressed in green, surrounded by fine strands of sword qi. The man stared at Ling Xiao and said coldly, "So you're the one who set up the arena here and challenged all the Empyrean walkers?" "That's right, it's me." Ling Xiao grinned at the man in green before him and said, "With such sword qi, if I'm not mistaken, you're Li Fuping, the Empyrean walker from the Dark Moon Tower. Am I right? You have a good eye." Li Fuping said calmly, admitting that the man was right. The long sword at his waist was unsheathed with a clang, and a strand of sword qi flew past Ling Xiao. He said, "Then, let's fight. Don't be hasty. It's just the two of us. It's not fun enough." Ling Xiao laughed. As soon as he finished speaking, a giggle came from the distant sky. A woman in red leaped into the air. Her beautiful and charming face attracted the hearts of many male cultivators present. It's her, Feng Yaorao. She's the Empyrean walker from the Thousand Flower Valley. She's here too. It's not just Feng Yaorao. After Feng Yaorao appeared, there seemed to be a flash of starlight in the sky. A ray of sword gleam flew over and turned into a young man in black. His sword qi was extremely mysterious, not much weaker than Li Fuping's. The ground shook. A burly man walked up the Empyrean Peak with a majestic gait. Every step he took caused the ground to shake. His aura was majestic. Oh, Yi Xian from the Big Dipper Palace and Guoshan from the Immovable Palace. Ling Xiao read out their names one by one. Another figure leaped into the air. His entire body was filled with a domineering and scorching battle intent as he stared straight at Ling Xiao. Zhan Long from the Battle Cloud Realm. How have you been? Ling Xiao said calmly. Now that 4 Empyrean walkers had arrived, the surrounding audience was extremely excited. They started discussing excitedly. 6. There are 6 Empyrean walkers here now. If they were to fight, I wonder how intense it would be. According to my observation, the Empyrean walkers have at least the combat strength of a sage. They're very terrifying. Who else? Who else is coming? Although most of the Empyrean walkers were not sages, they possessed combat strength that was on par with sages. Moreover, Empyrean walkers had been in the limelight recently and had become the hottest topic in Firmament Star. Hence, the scene before them could be described as the grandest event in the world. Buzz! Ripples appeared in the void. A young man in white walked out of the void. This young man's aura was like the clouds in the sky, ethereal and unpredictable. Oh, here comes another tough one. Ling Xiao looked at him. Sir, please tell me your name. Shuizheng from Ethereal Rapture. The young man in white, Shuizheng, smiled faintly. Oh, so you're an Empyrean walker from Ethereal Rapture. Ling Xiao nodded slightly. At this moment, there was a sudden flash of golden light in the distant sky. Amidst the golden light, a carriage flew over. Everywhere it went, a road made of golden bricks appeared in the void. It was glorious and grand. A road made of golden bricks. Someone from the Gold family is here. Ling Xiao looked at the carriage and said. It's the Empyrean walker from the Gold family, Jin Bujue. A deep voice came from within the carriage. A man wearing a robe made of golden silk, a golden belt, a golden crown, a golden ring on his finger, and a golden longsword hung on his waist walked out. The crowd could only feel the dazzling golden light before them. How can I miss out on the Empyrean Walker's challenge? A young man in gray came over. His body exuded a strange gray aura. Everywhere he went, the plants withered and died. Looking at him, the crowd frowned. They instinctively felt repulsed. Which Empyrean Walker is this? TSK, this aura, he's definitely from the sacred palace of death. All the Empyrean walkers took turns to enter the arena. Each of them had an extraordinary aura. The surrounding crowd was extremely excited to see this. Most of the people are here. Let's see who's the #1 sky pride in this world. Ling Xiao laughed. With his black spear in hand, his spirit soared. As soon as he said that. #1? Who else could it be other than me? An indifferent voice came from the clouds. Following that, a loud rumble was heard. It was as if something was coming at them from the sky. A magnificent ancient sword descended from the sky and landed right in the middle of the crowd. Majestic sword chi swept out from the blade of the sword, sending the Empyrean walkers flying 1,000 feet away from the force of the sword chi. A white-robed figure descended and landed in front of the crowd. The crowd's emotions reached its peak at that moment. He's here, Chu Kuangren is here. Chapter 369. The best in the world? Who else could it be other than me? Chu Kuangren's arrogant words were accompanied by the beautiful ancient sword. The sword chi that swept out was like a flood, and the Empyrean walkers were pushed back hundreds of meters. Countless spectators looked at Chu Kuangren with fanaticism and admiration. To them, Chu Kuangren's prestige was much greater than the Empyrean walkers who had only recently risen to fame. He's here, he's here. Chu Kuangren is here. *CK me, I knew he'd be part of a grand event like this. Why don't these Empyrean walkers take a look at whose era it is now? When Chu Kuangren killed a sage, God knows where these Empyrean walkers were. How can these people compare to him? You can't say that. Chu Kuangren may be powerful, but these Empyrean walkers are not to be underestimated either. Tisk TSK, don't you guys forget that some of these Empyrean walkers were defeated by Chu Kuangren before. The crowd was in an uproar as they discussed among themselves. Meanwhile, at the Empyrean peak, the group of Empyrean walkers looked at Chu Kuangren with fear in their eyes. Since he's here too. I thought he wouldn't come since Ling Xiao was challenging the Empyrean walkers. I didn't expect him to come anyway. Yi Xian, Zhan Long, and the other Empyrean walkers who had been defeated by Chu Kuangren before could not help but smile bitterly. Compared to the other Empyrean walkers, they had fought Chu Kuangren before, so they were more aware of his incredible combat strength. This entrance, this extravagance, he must have quite a background. Ling Xiao held his spear and looked at Chu Kuangren, who was hundreds of meters away with a burning battle intent on his face. You must be Chu Kuangren, right? That's right. Chu Kuangren activated his eye of revelation and scanned through the Empyrean walkers at the scene, quickly analyzing each and every one of their cultivation levels. Soon, his gaze landed on Ethereal Rapture's Empyrean walker, Shuizhang, and a strange look flashed across his eyes. Senior Predictor is right. The Empyrean walkers of Ethereal Rapture are here too, Chu Kuangren thought to himself. Finding Shuizhang and obtaining the celestial chalcedony from Ethereal Rapture was his main purpose of this trip. This challenge was just a side mission. After hearing about the burning of books and hiding of emperors, he did not have a good impression of the unknown lands. These unknown lands wanted to use the Empyrean walkers to make a name for themselves and fight for luck. He would not let them have their way. As long as he didn't lose, he would be able to become a martial monarch. What a great Chu Kuangren! Number 1 in the world? Who else could it be other than you? Then let me tell you, besides you, there is also my gold noble family's Jin Bujue. Jin Bujue stepped forwards and loudly said. A dense Daoist rhyme spread from his body and crushed towards Chu Kuangren. Meanwhile, Chu Kuangren just stood where he was, unbothered by the Daoist rhyme that was sweeping towards him. He lifted his eyes to look at Jin Bujue, and he could not help but squint his eyes at the sight of Jin Bujue's golden radiance. Yo, whose family's gold has turned into a spirit? His words made everyone's lips curl up. Jin Bujue's glittering appearance was indeed like gold that had turned into a spirit. However, because the other party was an Empyrean walker from the Gold family clan, they were too embarrassed to say it out loud. They did not expect Chu Kuangren to voice out their thoughts the moment he opened his mouth. Upon hearing Chu Kuangren's words, Jin Bujue snorted. Gold is the most beautiful thing in this world. How can people like you understand its beauty? As soon as he finished speaking, the golden longsword at his waist was unsheathed with a clang. Without another word, he charged towards Chu Kuangren and slashed at him. Chu Kuangren, take this. As soon as the sword was unleashed, a majestic golden sword chi emanated with an incredibly dense and sharp aura. This sword technique is already at the level of a sage. Feng Yaorao, who was not far away from Chu Kuangren, said solemnly. Jin Bujue's strength was definitely one of the top among the Empyrean walkers. Just a casual strike from his sword alone had such power. The level of a sage? Did it mean that any random skypride now had the combat strength of a sage? The sages who were once high and mighty had now become a unit of measurement? Chu Kuangren could not help but complain when he heard Feng Yaorao's words. Facing Jin Bujue's incoming sword technique, Chu Kuangren calmly raised his hand and a majestic amount of earth chi gathered at the center of his palm. The power of the human mountain was unleashed. When the two energies collided, the majestic golden sword ray shattered on the spot while Jin Bujue himself was sent flying dozens of feet away. What a powerful attack! Jin Bujue was secretly shocked. Chu Kuangren glanced at his opponent. He was surprised that he was unscathed after receiving the impact of the human mountain's power. This was something that most sages would find difficult to achieve. Is it that golden robe? Chu Kuangren noticed that the golden robe that his opponent was wearing had a mysterious Daoist rhyme that blocked all of his palm chi attacks. It was obvious that it was a sage weapon of a high grade. Heh, looks like this shiny golden robe of yours isn't completely useless after all. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Upon hearing that, Jin Bujue's aura rose again and the golden longsword in his hand shone with a dazzling golden light. Take this. An even more powerful sword chi was unleashed like a golden torrent. Wherever the sword chi went, the void rumbled and the ground cracked. Raging God's fist. Chu Kuangren still did not draw his sword. Instead, he raised his hand and unleashed a punch. An extremely violent black fist that was burning with rage was unleashed, instantly shattering the golden sword chi. It then landed on Jin Bujue's body and sent him flying hundreds of feet away. Although he was protected by the golden robe, his face still turned pale and he spat out a mouthful of blood. That's an emperor technique. You really do have an emperor technique, Jin Bujue said. The other Empyrean walkers were not surprised. Rumor had it that Chu Kuangren possessed unparalleled combat strength. They would not believe it if he did not have an emperor-level technique or two. Alright then, let's do it again. Let's see if your emperor technique is better or the Golden Family's emperor technique is better, Jin Bujue said loudly. A dazzling golden light erupted from his body, and within that light, a golden mountain vaguely appeared. This is a little troublesome. At that moment, Chu Kuangren suddenly spoke. Jin Bujue grinned. So you're aware of trouble and fear in the face of my Golden Family's emperor technique? You've misunderstood. Chu Kuangren shook his head. He then looked around at Feng Yaorao, Ling Xiao, Yi Xian, and the other Empyrean walkers and said, "Didn't you guys want to fight in the arena? Why aren't you guys fighting?" Everyone was stunned when they heard him. How are we supposed to fight? You and Jin Bujue haven't won yet. Ling Xiao was puzzled. Chu Kuangren sighed. Sigh, that's why I said it's a little troublesome. It's a waste of time to fight them one by one. Everyone understood what Chu Kuangren meant. At the same time, Ling Xiao and the other Empyrean walkers were enraged. They saw that Chu Kuangren and Jin Bujue were fighting, so they did not intervene. They wanted the two to have a fair fight. Fighting in the arena was supposed to be a one-on-one fight, right? Yet Chu Kuangren wanted to fight them alone. He was not taking the Empyrean walkers seriously at all. Chu Kuangren, don't be too arrogant. You don't even know if you can win against me, yet you want to fight them alone, Jin Bujue said angrily. Chapter 370. Who gave you the wrong impression that I can't defeat you? Chu Kuangren glanced at Jin Bujue. With a lift of his arm, a majestic spiritual power gathered once again, and an even more violent black fist attack was launched. Jin Bujue sensed that this attack was far more powerful than before. With a roar, a golden mountain formed above his head and he launched it. The fist and mountain collided, and the void exploded. The golden mountain was sent flying by the black fist attack and landed on Jin Bujue's body. Jin Bujue was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground, heavily injured. That punch shocked every Empyrean walker at the scene. What a terrifying fist attack. This guy's combat strength has reached such a level? Ling Xiao, Li Fuping, and the others were shocked. Compared to their shock, Zhan Long, Feng Yaorao, Guo San, and Yi Xian, who had fought against Chu Kuangren before, did not feel much. Back then, Chu Kuangren had defeated them even though he was outnumbered. What about you guys? Don't even think about fighting me one-on-one. Come at me together. Don't worry, it's not embarrassing to fight me together, Chu Kuangren said to Ling Xiao and the others. When they heard what he said, their expressions changed. They wanted to retort, but they did not know what to say. The combat strength that Chu Kuangren had displayed was not something that any of them could handle alone. Only by fighting him together would they have a chance of winning. However, they could not get over their own doubts. After all, they were Empyrean walkers, top-notch sky prides nurtured by their respective orthodoxies. They shouldered the mission of making their orthodoxies famous, so they were undoubtedly full of confidence and pride. However, Chu Kuangren had shattered their confidence with his absolute strength. If they were to fight him together, they would have to abandon their pride. How could they accept that? Go, go. Don't be a coward. That's right. You guys are fighting Chu Kuangren. It won't be embarrassing even if a whole group of you come at me, let alone just a few of you. Empyrean walkers, don't hesitate anymore. The person standing before you is someone who can fight a few sages or even great sages. He can turn the deep-sea scaled tribe upside down. He's right. It won't be embarrassing if all of you come at him together. If you accidentally win against him, you will truly become famous under the heavens, and everyone will know about you. Some of the onlookers in the crowd were eager to watch the drama unfold, so they started to encourage the Empyrean walkers to attack Chu Kuangren together. Upon hearing those words, Ling Xiao and the others felt their Dao hearts being tormented. To win, or to save face? Let's attack together. At this moment, Zhanlong suddenly roared, whether it's a one-on-one fight or a group brawl, as long as we can beat him, anything is fine. Only by defeating him will we have a chance to become a martial emperor. Otherwise, we will forever be suppressed by him. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone finally made up their minds. What was the use of face? Becoming a martial emperor was their ultimate goal. As long as they could become martial emperors, ganging up on one person was nothing. Attack! Chu Kuangren, let us have a go at you. Chu Kuangren let out a gratified smile as he watched the Empyrean walkers rush forward. That's right. This is the only way to continue playing. All of a sudden, a powerful surge of qi erupted from his body, and a golden Buddhist light appeared around his body, turning him into a golden ancient Buddha. The ancient Buddha unleashed a palm attack, and the majestic force smashed towards Zhanlong. His opponent roared and retaliated with a punch of his own. When the fist and palm collided, the entire Empyrean peak shook violently. Chu Kuangren remained unmoved while Zhanlong was sent flying dozens of feet away, his arms trembling non-stop. This guy is still as strong as ever. Zhanlong gritted his teeth and said. At this time, the other Empyrean walkers had already closed in on Chu Kuangren. Sword qi, saber rays, death qi, and other energy fluctuations spread out and blasted towards Chu Kuangren from all directions with Daoist rhymes. The overpowering force almost caused the void to distort, and the sonic booms were like a tidal wave. The entire Empyrean peak started to crumble. 8 celestial demonic chords, heavenly and earthly reverberation. A guqin appeared in Chu Kuangren's hand. As he plucked the strings with his 10 fingers, terrifying guqin music Daoist rhymes resonated with the heavens and earth with him at the center. Sword qi, death qi, spear rays, and other energy attacks were all destroyed by the guqin music. The few people who were attacking Chu Kuangren were also pushed back by the impact. Chu Kuangren, who was at the center of the collision, suffered the most and the most terrifying impact. Under such an impact, even a saint would definitely not be able to withstand it. However, the other party stood proudly, and many white lotuses condensed around him, blocking all the impact. It was the sage ruler technique, the white lotus light of purification. Sword qi transformation. 4 surges of sword qi suddenly shot out from Chu Kuangren's body and turned into 4 sword qi clones. They then surrounded Zhanlong, Feng Yaorao, Yi Xian, and Guosan, the 4 Empyrean walkers. I've seen what the 4 of you are capable of. You guys can play with these clones for now. Chu Kuangren said calmly. He then looked at Ling Xiao, Li Fuping, and the other 2 and gestured with his finger. You guys, attack me to your heart's content. Before we continue, I have a question. Do you know the gluttonous devouring technique? The gray-robed young man asked. He was the Empyrean walker of the sacred palace of death, Gue Wuchou. The gluttonous devouring technique. Oh, right, I almost forgot. I obtained this gluttonous devouring technique from a guy called the Black Light Sage. I think he's a protector of your sacred palace of death. Chu Kuangren said in realization. A few years ago, when he first entered the realm, he once went to the secret realm of the luminous moon where the Black Light Sage was being suppressed. That was where he obtained the gluttonous devouring technique from. Besides, the the Black Light Sage was also a member of the Sacred Palace of Death. So you obtained the gluttonous devouring technique from the Black Light Sage. I hope you'll return it to the Sacred Palace of Death after this battle. Gue Wuchou said. What if I don't? Then you'll be making the Sacred Palace of Death your enemy. Gue Wuchou said coldly. I've made many enemies along the way. You won't make a difference. Chu Kuangren did not care. We'll talk about your matters later. Let's fight first. Ling Xiao let out a low growl and thrust his spear forward. An overbearing Daoist rhyme surrounded the spear like a dragon out of the sea. Upon seeing that, Chu Kuangren's descendant self-sword that was originally stuck in the ground suddenly rose into the air. He held it in his hand and swung it forward with a loud clang. The sword and spear clashed, and a series of shockwaves swept across the place. Clang 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 clang. The sword and spear collided rapidly. Both sword and spear techniques were mixed with a large amount of spiritual power and Daoist rhyme. Each of their attacks contained a terrifying power that could split mountains and split the earth. It was just a clash between the sword and spear, but the resulting impact had caused half of the mountain beneath their feet to collapse. Buzz! At that moment, a sword ray descended from above Chu Kuangren's head. That sword ray was shaped like a crescent moon, sharp and unstoppable. Chu Kuangren shook the descendant self-sword in his hand and a majestic sword chi poured out, temporarily forcing Ling Xiao to retreat. Following that, he swung his sword at the sword ray above his head. An overbearing and unstoppable purple sword ray tore through the sword ray with a majestic and unstoppable momentum and headed towards the Empyrean walker, Li Fuping. Although they were both swordsmen, the sword-based Daoist rhyme within Chu Kuangren's sword chi made Li Fuping's heart palpitate. Chapter 371. Silver Light Sword Art. Li Fuping slashed out with her sword, and the bright sword light slashed out again. He had to unleash 2 sword strikes in a row to block the sword ray that Chu Kuangren had casually unleashed. His heart could not help but sink. We're both sword cultivators, but there's such a big gap between us. Is this the power of the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart? Compared to it, my mystic moon sword body is still inferior. Li Fuping thought to herself as a hint of unwillingness flashed through her eyes. The exquisite 9 orifices sword heart was a supreme constitution for the way of the sword. In terms of cultivating the way of the sword, it possessed a talent that no other sword cultivator could hope to attain. Li Fuping was clear about this, but she couldn't help but feel indignant. Come, let's continue, Chu Kuangren said. Following that, a mysterious Taoist rhyme appeared on his body and transformed into a sword of the heavenly way above his head. Sword chi shuttled back and forth beneath his feet and transformed into a sword chi green lotus. It was the vision of the exquisite 9 orifices sword heart. As soon as the Daoist physique transformation appeared, Chu Kuangren's combat strength was boosted. When the 4 Empyrean walkers saw this, their expressions turned solemn. Looks like we also have to use our trump cards. 9 Heavens Imperial Court. Soaring Cloud Spear let out a roar. Accompanied by a terrifying Daoist rhyme, golden light suddenly condensed behind Ling Xiao, turning into an incomparably glorious palace. This was the 9th Cloud's vision cultivation method. It was also an emperor technique. Once this emperor technique was executed, Ling Xiao's Daoist rhyme instantly skyrocketed under the support of the 9 Heavens Imperial Court. Surging spiritual power poured out continuously. Death well. Gue Wuchou let out a cold snort as his Daoist rhyme circulated and condensed into a well above his head. A large amount of grey deathly qi gushed out from the well. At this moment, Gue Wuchou seemed to have transformed into the Grim Reaper who reaped lives, emitting an aura of extreme yin and evil. See rising bright moon. Li Fuping took a step forward, and a large amount of sword qi surged out of his body. The sword qi interweaved and actually formed an ocean, and at the end of the ocean of sword qi, a bright moon slowly rose. Mystic moon sword body phenomenon, bright moon rising from the sea. World divine concealment. On the other side, ethereal rapture's Empyrean walker, Xuezheng, had also activated some sort of technique. His aura was becoming increasingly ethereal and unpredictable. It was even to the extent that in everyone's eyes, Xuezheng seemed as if he would vanish into thin air at any moment, and he actually seemed illusory. However, in the eyes of those with sharp senses, the current Xuezheng was extremely terrifying. His aura was practically non-existent, which made his attacks unpredictable and hard to detect. This was extremely terrifying in battle. Four great Empyrean walkers with 4 different Daoist rhymes surrounded Chu Kuangren from 4 different directions. Upon seeing that, Chu Kuangren smiled. "So this is your trump card, huh? Interesting. Come, make your move. Fight." Ling Xiao was the first to make a move. The spear in his hand struck out, and the 9 heavens imperial quartz avatar shone with a myriad of rays of golden light, which were added to the spear. Flood dragon breaks the seas. An incomparably majestic spear light burst out like a tornado. Chu Kuangren was not afraid in the face of the spear ray that was the first to erupt. With a sweep of the long sword in his hand, a sword chi pierced through the air and shattered the spear ray. At this moment, a gust of cold air swept out from behind him. It was the sacred palace of Death's Gui Wuchou. He pointed out a finger that was wrapped in an incredibly terrifying aura of death. Wherever it went, the life force of every living thing was extinguished. Finger of despair. With a finger, one's life and death were no longer in one's hands. That was the sacred palace of Death's strongest technique. It was a powerful emperor technique. Chu Kuangren sensed the finger attack, so he too pointed out a finger. A mysterious surge of Daoist rhyme gushed out from the tip of his finger and instantly condensed into a pitch-black giant finger in the void. Heart-piercing finger. Heart-piercing finger, Daoist heart-piercing finger. When the 2 finger energies collided, Chu Kuangren's body remained unmoved. He took the impact of the aura of death head-on and remained unscathed. On the other hand, Gui Wuchou's Daoist core was affected by the heart-piercing finger's Daoist rhyme. His body could not help but stiffen, and when the finger energy landed on him, he was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and his aura became weak. The difference in their foundation strength was instantly made clear. Just when Chu Kuangren repelled Gui Wuchou, he suddenly sensed a surge of qi approaching him silently. White lotus light of purification. He subconsciously activated his defensive technique. All he saw was an invisible surge of qi shattering the white lotuses and approaching him with an incredibly powerful force. Chu Kuangren swung his sword horizontally and shattered that surge of energy qi. A look of interest appeared on his face. "Oh, what an interesting technique to be able to launch an attack without making a sound. I almost fell for it." Not far away, Xuezheng's figure flickered in and out of existence as if he would vanish at any moment. He chuckled. The ethereal Enigma realm's attack is hard to detect. Brother Chu, please be careful. Originally, if it was a one-on-one battle, it would not be difficult for Chu Kuangren to detect the ethereal Enigma realm's attack with all his attention on him. However, he had to fight a few Empyrean walkers at the same time, so he could not focus all his attention on Xuezheng. This greatly increased the threat that Xuezheng's ethereal Enigma realm posed to Chu Kuangren. Interesting. Chu Kuangren revealed a look of interest. You guys have finally piqued my interest in battling. I'd like to see just how arrogant you can be. Li Fuping snorted coldly as the long sword in his hand instantly moved. Surges of sword qi appeared out of thin air and shot out one after another along with the bright moonlight. They tore through the void and slashed towards Chu Kuangren. Shatter. With a soft shout, Chu Kuangren lifted his hand and shattered the sword qi. Then, he unleashed a punch towards Li Fuping's transformation. The violent palm chi caused Li Fuping's transformation to tremble, and cracks began to appear on the bright moonlight. Li Fuping channeled her spiritual power and stabilized the transformation's power. Meanwhile, Gue Wuchou, who was sent flying by Chu Kuangren not far away, suddenly emitted a powerful surge of life force. His originally injured body rapidly recovered under this surge of life force and returned to its peak state. Rebirth from the dead. This is the ultimate technique of my death Dao. Gue Wuchou looked at Chu Kuangren and said proudly. I, Jin Bujue, will not fall so easily. On the other side, Jin Bujue, who was previously sent flying by Chu Kuangren's punch, had also recovered 70 to 80% of his strength after consuming a medicinal pill. He came before Chu Kuangren and raised the golden longsword in his hand high up. Large amounts of Daoist rhymes circulated and intertwined to form the image of a giant golden mountain. Boom! At that moment, a violent energy fluctuation came from not far away. Chu Kuangren, you will definitely lose today. Zhanlong, Yi Xian, Guosan, and Feng Yaorao had already dealt with Chu Kuangren's sword chi clones and were now surrounding him. The 9 Empyrean walkers had blocked off all of Chu Kuangren's escape routes. 9 incredibly powerful auras filled the Empyrean peak, and in the middle of these auras was Chu Kuangren, who stood proudly. The surrounding spectators held their breaths as they watched the scene unfold before them. In this world, other than Chu Kuangren, there was no other skypride who could be surrounded and attacked by 9 Empyrean walkers. Heh, you guys have pretty much used up all of your trump cards, but I haven't even used my full strength yet. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Then, an indescribable surge of energy that made all the Empyrean walkers' expressions changed gushed out from his body and slammed into the void like a tidal wave. Chapter 372. Boom! Boundless ferocious chi and battle intent gushed out from Chu Kuangren's body and formed into a pitch-black figure behind him. A battle roar reverberated in the void. The infallible tormented physique, activate. At the same time, countless surges of Daoist rhymes circulated around Chu Kuangren's body. Sword Dao, Spear Dao, Buddhist Dao, 5 Ways Dao, these Daoist rhymes circulated and turned into a powerful transcendental strength. Transcendent Coalescence Daoist Physique, activate. 3 supreme Daoist physiques were activated at the same time. The entire Empyrean peak exploded into countless pieces of rubble that flew everywhere. The Empyrean walkers were also forced to retreat. You guys have almost used up all your trump cards, but I'm just starting to use them, Chu Kuangren said calmly. He looked around before he looked at Zhanlong and unleashed a punch. Boundless ferocious chi and battle intent combined with the transcendental strength. Zhanlong's eyes narrowed as he roared and unleashed another punch. Sky Conqueror Fist, sky shattering. Violent spiritual power and Daoist rhymes erupted and turned into a giant black fist. However, the moment the two energies intertwined, Zhanlong's fist chi crumbled and he was blasted away. Zhanlong was sent flying by the punch and smashed into a mountain several thousand feet away. His aura instantly withered. Just one punch was enough to render Zhanlong powerless. Again. Chu Kuangren looked at the others. The moment he unleashed his attack, the others had already reacted and quickly channeled their spiritual power to attack. 9 Heavens Imperial Court, Torrential Spear. Finger of Despair. 7 Stars Touch. Lunar Horizon. 100 Generations of Glory. Ethereal Concealment Realm, Firmament Palm. Golden Mountain Seal. Mountain River Seal. The 8 Empyrean walkers activated their most powerful ultimate techniques one after another. The sky was filled with spear energy that rained down like a torrential downpour, the 7-star sword chi transformed into majestic sword shadows, the moon-like sword gleams filled the air, and the Daoist rhymes of the Guqin reverberated in the void. The silent palm chi swam through the void towards Chu Kuangren. The majestic golden light condensed into a golden mountain that shook the heavens and earth. Death Qi and Earth Qi were equally powerful. These 8 surges of peerless energy that could shatter the heavens and the earth circulated and smashed towards Chu Kuangren from all directions. In the face of such a powerful attack, even a great sage would have a hard time fending it off. However, ferocious Qi swirled around Chu Kuangren's body, and the divine ferocious avatar behind him let out a deafening roar. It swung its fists in all directions. Wave after wave of punches carried a strong gust of wind and struck out continuously. Loud rumbling sounds reverberated in the void, and all kinds of different Daoist rhymes intertwined in the void, dyeing the sky colorful and incomparably gorgeous, dazzling countless spectators. However, they could clearly feel the terrifying killing intent contained within that dazzling scene. Killing Qi and battle will mixed with the power of the 10,000 techniques erupted continuously. The Sky Fiend technique was the same, and the 8 peerlessly tyrannical powers collided. An incomparably terrifying impact spread out, and the sea of clouds within a radius of 1,000 miles exploded continuously. The entire sky universe peak had already been reduced to ruins. Dust billowed, obscuring everyone's vision. The chaotic energy fluctuations blocked everyone's spiritual thoughts and senses. The few Empyrean walkers stared at the dust without blinking. Then, they saw a black figure floating within it. It was Chu Kuangren. He was still standing proudly, and his arrogance did not diminish. Under the joint attack of the 8 Empyrean walkers, his divine ferocious avatar might be powerful, but it was already damaged. The boiling ferocious Qi could no longer maintain a stable form, and it looked like it was about to collapse. However, Chu Kuangren still stood where he was, unscathed. He had blocked the joint attack of 8 Empyrean walkers with just one avatar. Ling Xiao and the others were shocked by such unimaginable combat strength. Their eyes widened in disbelief. "Now, it's my turn," Chu Kuangren said calmly. He held the lingering song in front of his chest and plucked the strings with all 10 fingers. The 7th movement of the 8 celestial demonic chords, Heavenly Reverberation, was activated. With the support of the 10,000 techniques, this movement's power was even more terrifying. The heavens and earth resonated with it, causing the void to crack and the earth to tremble violently. Waves of Guqin music Daoist rhymes continued to spread. Not good. Ling Xiao's expression changed. He activated the 9 Heavens Gate transformation behind him to fight against the Guqin music Daoist rhymes. However, under the impact of the Guqin music, his 9 Heavens Gate began to shake violently, and cracks began to appear on the Heavens Gate. With a loud bang, the Daoist rhymes exploded, and the dazzling palace collapsed on the spot. The 9 Heavens Gate transformation was broken. Ling Xiao suffered the backlash from his transformation and the impact of the Guqin music. He spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot and was smashed into a mountain like a cannonball. The others were not much better off. Li Fuping's rising moon above the sea transformation was also shattered. The sea and moon formed by the intertwining sword Qi instantly crumbled. Gue Wucho's dried well of death shattered on the spot and dissipated. Shui Zhang's illusory figure solidified under the Guqin music. Under the impact of the Guqin music Daoist rhymes, he broke away from his enigmatic world state. His face turned pale as he was blasted away like Ling Xiao. Feng Yaorao, Yi Xian, Guosan, Jin Bujue. The impact of the Guqin music caused all the Empyrean walkers who were present to experience an unprecedented impact. One by one, they were sent flying backward. When the Guqin music dissipated, the entire Empyrean peak fell into dead silence. Chu Kuangren was the only one left standing in the ruins of the Empyrean peak. The other Empyrean walkers were all blasted away and laid on the ground. Their auras were extremely weak, and it seemed like they no longer had the strength to fight. Chu Kuangren had defeated 8 Empyrean walkers with just one heavenly reverberation. Including Zhan Long, who was blasted away earlier, the 9 Empyrean walkers who had gathered at the Empyrean peak were all defeated without exception. How can he be so powerful? Ling Xiao was in disbelief. They stared at Chu Kuangren, feeling that the person before them was not human but a monster. Which Skypride would have such combat strength? I'm afraid there's not a single Skypride in this world who can compete with him. With him around, who can become an emperor first? The other Empyrean walkers were also shocked. Many of the sages who were secretly observing the battle had their own thoughts as well. Once again, they were shocked by Chu Kuangren's combat strength. He won. He won. Chu Kuangren won. He's the best in this world. The divine predictor is right. Who is the best among the Skyprides? Black Heaven has its own Kuangren, and Chu Kuangren is the best Skypride in this world. He's too powerful. The spectators exclaimed in shock. Many people looked at him with fanatical worship in their eyes. However, at that moment, a terrifying surge of Daoist rhymes suddenly erupted from afar. It intertwined in the void and formed into a heavenly honorable avatar that exuded a domineering and supreme aura. Chu Kuangren, if you want to be the best in this world, you'll have to ask my heavenly golden imperial physique first. A domineering voice echoed in the void. Then, the gigantic heavenly honorable avatar unleashed a punch at Chu Kuangren from afar. The fist force swept across the sky. Just the wind generated from the punch alone was enough to make everyone feel as if doomsday had arrived. Chapter 373. The incoming fist chi stunned Chu Kuangren for a moment. He then gathered his ferocious chi and unleashed a punch of his own. When the two violent energies collided, the void exploded with a boom. A windstorm swept up and sent the Empyrean walkers flying. Who is this? How can he possess such power? What did he just say? The heavenly golden imperial physique. The heavenly golden imperial physique that's ranked second among the 3,000 physiques. F*ck where is this sky pride from? The crowd gasped and looked towards the source of the fist chi. A young man stood on a mountain peak not far away. He was dressed in a long black robe, and his facial features were well defined. His body exuded an indescribably domineering aura. Everyone could not help but want to submit to him when they saw him. The black-robed young man took a step forward and traversed thousands of meters in the blink of an eye. He arrived above Chu Kuangren and looked down at him. Chu Kuangren, if you want to be the best in this world, you'll have to ask for my permission first. Chu Kuangren looked at him and activated his eye of revelation. Heavenly Golden Palace Empyrean Walker, Xiao Lintian, possesses the acquired Heavenly Golden Imperial Physique, cultivates the Emperor Scripture, Heavenly Golden 7 Steps, Emperor Techniques. This person's combat strength is comparable to a great sage. Chu Kuangren narrowed his eyes at the feedback from the eye of revelation. The acquired Heavenly Golden Imperial Physique. Interesting. Not far away, Ling Xiao and the other Skyprides looked at each other. The Heavenly Golden Imperial Physique. I can't believe such a peerless physique exists in this world. Which unknown lands did this person come from? Yi Xian, Zhan Long, and the others were puzzled. If I'm not mistaken, this person is from the Heavenly Golden Palace. At this time, Shuizheng took a deep breath and said, I heard from the elders in the Orthodoxy that the Heavenly Golden Palace is one of the few with the deepest heritage among the many unknown lands. In their history, they once produced a Heavenly Golden Imperial Physique that shocked an entire era. However, in order to become an emperor, the Heavenly Golden Imperial Physique followed a group of strong cultivators into the Misty Ocean, one of the 10 great forbidden areas. Since then, there has been no news of the Heavenly Golden Imperial Physique. In order to continue the glory of the Heavenly Golden Imperial Physique, the Heavenly Golden Palace has been researching this physique for tens of thousands of years in an attempt to acquire it. Now, it seems that they've succeeded. Upon hearing this, the few Empyrean walkers gasped. A supreme Daoist body was extremely rare, let alone a supreme Daoist body like the heavenly golden imperial body, which was the second most powerful supreme Daoist body. Apart from being bestowed by the heavens, it was not difficult to form such a body after birth. This was simply stealing the fortune of heaven and earth. This was an act of stealing the heavens. It was not just the Empyrean walkers who were shocked. The sages who were observing from the shadows were also shocked by the heavenly golden palace's actions. I thought the heavenly golden palace had been doing nothing for tens of thousands of years. I can't believe they actually succeeded. It's definitely very difficult to form such a physique after birth. Who knows how many resources have been consumed? Finally, there's someone who can go against Chu Kuangren. The saints were secretly communicating with their spiritual sense. They couldn't help but look forward to the upcoming battle. One possessed the heavenly golden imperial physique, while the other possessed 3 supreme Daoist physiques. If the two of them fought, who would come out on top? Chu Kuangren, since you've just fought a few small fries, I'll give you some time to recover your spiritual power before we fight to our heart's content. Xiao Lintian stood with his hands behind his back and said proudly. Ling Xiao and the others could not help but twitch their mouths at his words. They looked at Xiao Lintian furiously. Small fries? How could they, Empyrean walkers, be called small fries? If not for Chu Kuangren's heavy injuries, they would have fought him even if they knew they were no match for Xiao Lintian. Heh, if they're small fries, then you're just a slightly fatter one too. Even if I have less than half of my spiritual power left, I can still make you kneel on the ground. Chu Kuangren chuckled. Humph, how arrogant and ignorant. Xiao Lintian snorted coldly. He then raised his hand and threw a punch at Chu Kuangren. A surge of golden fist strength erupted like a mighty torrent. It was one of the heavenly golden palace's emperor techniques, the divine golden fist. Moreover, Xiao Lintian planned to defeat Chu Kuangren in an absolute manner. Hence, he did not hold back and pushed his spiritual power to the limit. Even a great sage would have to be cautious when facing such a punch. Raging God's fist. Chu Kuangren threw out a punch as well. It was a punch against a punch. When the two surges of qi collided, Daoist rhymes swept out. Both of them stood still, but the ground around them had collapsed, forming a huge crater. You're the first person to remain unscathed under my punch. Chu Kuangren, you deserve my full strength to defeat you. Xiao Lintian's eyes revealed a hint of seriousness. A powerful aura erupted from his body, and his Daoist rhymes soared into the sky. The Daoist rhymes intertwined in the void and condensed into a heavenly honorable silhouette. It was the heavenly golden imperial physique's transformation, the heavenly honorable avatar. Chu Kuangren activated his 3 supreme Daoist physiques. Come on, let me see if your 3 supreme Daoist physiques are stronger than my heavenly honorable avatar. Xiao Lintian roared. He threw out a punch and performed the divine golden fist again. But this time, with the support of the celestial master's Dharma idol, his fist force had a supreme and domineering aura. The power of this punch was even more powerful. Chu Kuangren shook his head slightly. He placed the lingering song Guqin in front of him and plucked at its strings. All of a sudden, a silent Guqin Daoist rhyme erupted. Ripples appeared in the void. The final movement of the 8 celestial demonic chords, the grand note of desolation. The Guqin Daoist rhyme that the few Empyrean walkers had never seen before spread in the void and collided with Xiao Lintian's fist strength. The terrifying impact caused a 1,000-meter deep crack to appear in the ground, shocking everyone within a 1,000-kilometer radius. Meanwhile, Xiao Lintian's fist strength quickly disintegrated under the impact of the grand note of desolation, and the heavenly honorable avatar also exploded. Xiao Lintian spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. The heavenly golden imperial physique, which was ranked second among the 3,000 physiques, was destroyed by Chu Kuangren with just one Guqin sound. Everyone was shocked by this scene. Even the sages who were secretly observing were dumbfounded. How is this possible? How can the heavenly golden imperial physique be so weak? This doesn't make sense. This is the second-ranked supreme Daoist physique. Even if Chu Kuangren has 3 supreme Daoist physiques, none of them are stronger than the heavenly golden imperial physique. How is this possible? The gap is a little too big. The sages discussed among themselves in disbelief. The heavenly golden palace's sages, in particular, were even more shocked. After all, Xiao Lintian was the heavenly golden imperial physique that they had painstakingly cultivated. They were counting on him to make a name for their orthodoxy, become an emperor, and protect the heavenly golden imperial palace. However, the heavenly golden imperial physique that they had high hopes for was defeated by Chu Kuangren with just one guqin sound. Even the other Empyrean walkers could hold their own against Chu Kuangren, so how could the stronger Xiao Lintian be so weak? He didn't even use his full strength when he battled us. Ling Xiao gulped, finding it hard to believe. Xiao Lintian, who was sent flying by a guqin sound, looked at Chu Kuangren with an uncontrollable fear in his eyes. How can this be? How can this be? My heavenly golden imperial physique is invincible. How can I lose, and it's such a crushing defeat? Chapter 374. Chu Kuangren slowly walked towards Xiao Lintian and looked down at his opponent who was lying on the ground. He said, "The heavenly golden imperial physique is indeed extraordinary, but it's a pity that you're too weak." Indeed. Was the heavenly golden imperial physique weak? Not at all. As a supreme Daoist physique that was second only to the chaos physique, how weak could it be? It was one of the strongest physiques in history. Many emperors did not even have such a physique. However, did having a strong physique mean that one was strong? Not necessarily. Chu Kuangren had 3 supreme Daoist physiques, but the reason why he could defeat Xiao Lintian so easily was because of his foundation. He had the 6 supreme Daoist foundations. Although his physique was slightly weaker than Xiao Lintian's, it was still a piece of cake for him to defeat his opponent. Am I too weak? Am I too weak? Xiao Lintian murmured as his expression changed. As the Empyrean walker of the heavenly golden palace and the owner of the heavenly golden imperial physique, how could he be weak? However, if he was not weak, how could he be defeated by Chu Kuangren in one move? Xiao Lintian could not understand it no matter how hard he thought about it. His Daoist core suffered an unprecedented blow, and he could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Chu Kuangren, shut up. At that moment, an angry voice came from Xiao Lintian's body. A ray of light shot out from his body and turned into a white-bearded old man in a yellow robe. Chu Kuangren activated his Eye of Revelation. Sage ruler Zhongguang, the current palace lord of the heavenly golden palace, oh. A sage ruler, the palace lord of the heavenly golden imperial physique. The heavenly golden palace really values the heavenly golden imperial physique. I can't believe they left a sage ruler's mark on him. Chu Kuangren chuckled. He could tell that this sage ruler Zhongguang was just a spiritual thought. However, this spiritual thought was left on Xiao Lintian through some secret technique, and it could unleash terrifying combat strength. At least, anyone below the sage ruler level would have a hard time dealing with it. Lintian, stabilize your Daoist core. Don't be affected by Chu Kuangren's words, sage ruler Zhongguang said loudly. Not long after, Xiao Lintian's complexion gradually improved. However, he still had some lingering fear as he stared at Chu Kuangren with hatred. Chu Kuangren, how dare you try to use flowery words to disturb my Daoist core? Upon hearing that, Chu Kuangren could not help but chuckle. Everything I've said is the truth. What do you mean by that? Besides, your own Daoist core is weak, yet you still have the cheek to blame it on others. As expected of a shameless place. Chu Kuangren said indifferently. Upon hearing his words, not only was Xiao Lintian enraged, but even sage ruler Zhang Guang, who was only in his spiritual will form, was enraged. Even some of the sages from the unknown lands who were secretly observing the situation were a little angry. After all, they were also in the unknown lands, and Chu Kuangren's words had implicitly dragged them into the unknown lands as well. This is the Heavenly Golden Palace's business. Why are you dragging us into this? Chu Kuangren, you've gone too far. You should know that the Heavenly Golden Palace can destroy your Black Heaven sect with ease. Sage ruler Zhang Guang harumphed coldly. A cold glare shot out from Chu Kuangren's eyes. Oh, are you threatening me now? Then what are you going to do about it? Sage ruler Zhang Guang snorted. In an instant, a terrifying surge of sword-based Daoist rhyme erupted from Chu Kuangren's body. The descendant self-sword at his waist vibrated, and a terrifying sword ray shot into the sky as a blood-colored flame enveloped his body. 9 deaths blazing blood art, activate. 3 great Daoist physiques, activate. The 6 supreme foundation levels within Chu Kuangren's body shone brightly at the same time. The descendant self-sword was unsheathed, and its ringing echoed throughout the heavens. With a single slash, a boundless surge of murderous energy wrapped around the sword's edge. It was so powerful that it almost tore the void apart. That slash was aimed directly at sage ruler Zhang Guang's spiritual thought. What? Sage ruler Zhang Guang's spiritual thought clone did not expect Chu Kuangren to attack without warning, and he even used his full strength in that attack. No matter how strong sage ruler Zhang Guang's spiritual thought clone was, it was still destroyed by Chu Kuangren's slash as it was caught off guard. After the violent sword ray tore through sage ruler Zhang Guang's spiritual thought clone, it did not stop there. Instead, it continued to shoot into the distance. 1 mountain, 2 mountains, 4 mountains, more than 10 mountains were shattered by that slash. An enormous rift that was 30 kilometers long and almost 3 kilometers deep had been sliced open on the ground. Moreover, there were strands of dense sword chi and a strand of Daoist aura that caused one's heart to palpitate on both sides of the rift. The power of that slash sent chills down the spines of the sages. The Empyrean walkers who were present were even more shocked. What? What a terrifying slash! Li Fuping, who was also a sword cultivator, could not help but gulp. He was 100% sure that even if there were 20 of him, he would not be able to block that slash. It sounded ridiculous to him. Li Fuping had to admit that an Empyrean walker was reduced to a unit of measurement for Chu Kuangren's slash. That slash had deeply shocked him. Threatening me? Why don't you ask around and see if I, Chu Kuangren, have ever been threatened by anyone? Chu Kuangren snorted coldly. Then, his gaze landed on Xiao Lintian. Xiao Lintian, the Heavenly Golden Palace Empyrean walker who possessed the Heavenly Golden Imperial physique, felt his body stiffen under Chu Kuangren's gaze. A bone-chilling chill enveloped him as if his blood was about to freeze. Go back and tell your palace lord that I've destroyed one of his spiritual thought clones today. If he dares to invade the Black Heaven sect, not only will I destroy his real body, but I'll also make sure that the Heavenly Golden Palace will never have a day of peace. If he suspects me, then let him see what happens to the Scaled Tribe and the Bottomless Chasm. Chu Kuangren said coldly. The sages who were secretly observing were speechless. Oh my God, this Chu Kuangren is too reckless. What kind of existence was the Heavenly Golden Palace? It was one of the most powerful existences in the unknown lands. Even the other unknown lands would not dare to provoke the Heavenly Golden Palace. Yet, Chu Kuangren had the guts to destroy the Heavenly Golden Palace Lord's spiritual thought clone and threaten the Heavenly Golden Palace. How arrogant must he be to dare to do something like that? Lunatic. This guy is just as the rumors say. He's an unscrupulous lunatic who can't be measured by common sense. Humph, he's too arrogant. It's true that he's strong, but does everyone in the Black Heaven sect think like him? This isn't arrogance, it's reckless ignorance. In my opinion, it won't be long before the Black Heaven sect is razed to the ground. Chu Kuangren won't have a good ending either. But what does he mean by the bottomless chasm? Did he confront the bottomless chasm when he wreaked havoc in the Scale tribe? That's an existence no weaker than the heavenly golden palace. The sages all had different thoughts. Meanwhile, inside the heavenly golden palace, sage ruler Zhang Guang, who was sitting on a cattail hassock, suddenly turned pale and spat out a mouthful of blood. The spiritual thought clone that he left in Xiao Lintian's body was refined using a secret technique. It had 1/10 of his strength and was extremely powerful. However, at the same time, the destruction of that spiritual thought clone would cause him to suffer a certain degree of damage. Chu Kuangren, how dare you destroy my clone? You deserve to die. Sage ruler Zhang Guang was so angry that his face turned green. You're tuning in to the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.